The air is cold, not the kind that chills your skin. This cold seeps deeper, into your bones, into your mind. You take a step forward, and the sound echoes, stone on stone, a hollow rhythm that feels older than time itself. Dust swirls around your boots like restless ghosts. The walls around you pulse faintly with red light, carved with runes that breathe, each symbol whispering your name in a voice that isn't quite human. You can smell iron, burnt ash, the faint sweetness of something long dead, and then you hear it, that voice, low, ancient, seductive. Do you seek power or doom? The words crawl beneath your skin. You can't tell if they come from the tomb or from inside your own thoughts. The air trembles with unseen hunger. It feels like the temple itself is alive, waiting, watching, testing you. You walk deeper. With every step, the shadows thicken and the whispers grow louder. You catch fragments, names spoken like curses, titles carried like weapons. Ajunta Pall, Revan, Bane, Sidious, Vader. Names that once ruled the stars and paid the price for it. You run your fingers across the cold stone, and for a heartbeat, you feel them. 1,000 Sith Lords reaching out from the dark, their memories burned into the very bones of the galaxy. You see wars, betrayal, and endless hunger, the dark side feeding on itself again and again. It's beautiful, it's terrifying, it's eternal. And as the temple doors close behind you with a thunderous echo, you understand the truth. Power was never given, it was always taken. Now the question is no longer theirs, it's yours. Do you dare walk the path of the Sith, from the weakest shadow to the strongest God? Because once you start, there is no turning back. The door seals behind you with a low, metallic groan, a sound that feels alive, almost hungry. For a moment, there is only darkness, the kind that doesn't just hide light, it devours it. You breathe in. The air is heavy, thick with the scent of dust and iron, the scent of old blood that never fully faded. You take a cautious step forward. Stone grinds beneath your boots. The floor is uneven, carved by hands that have been dead for millennia. A thin mist coils around your ankles, like smoke searching for something warm to cling to. And then, faintly, it begins. A pulse, soft, rhythmic, alive. You glance down. The floor is glowing. Red runes, carved deep into the stone, awaken one by one, spreading out in a perfect circle beneath you. Their light flickers, dancing like firelight, but cold. You can feel it radiating through your boots. Heat and chill at once, like the dark side itself can't decide whether to burn or freeze you. The walls around you breathe. You swear you can hear them, the soft whisper of ancient voices crawling through the cracks of time. Do you seek power or doom? The words slither across your mind like a serpent. They don't come from the air, they come from inside. You try to steady your breath, but your pulse betrays you. You feel it, 1,000 invisible eyes watching from the shadows that line the walls. You take another step. The light grows stronger. Ahead, the corridor stretches into infinity, its arches carved with symbols of fury and pain. Murals etched into the walls show battles older than memory. Armored figures with crimson blades clash against radiant knights of light. Entire worlds burn beneath their feet. This is no tomb. This is a memory, preserved in stone and suffering. You move deeper, each step echoing like a heartbeat. At the center of the chamber, a massive door stands, twice your height, its surface engraved with twin in serpents devouring one another's tails. The stone shimmers faintly as though alive, veins of dark energy pulsing through it. You place your hand against it. The stone is warm. It hums softly under your palm. For a moment you feel something stir within you, a tremor of recognition. This place knows you. The door opens with a slow hiss, releasing a cloud of red dust that smells of old fire. You step inside, and there, in the center, lies the throne of ashes, broken, cold, empty, but powerful, the seat of a long-dead god. All around it, shattered lightsabers litter the floor, relics of those who once came seeking power and left as dust. Statues line the walls, faceless, hooded, each one different yet the same. They all watch you. At the base of the throne, an inscription is carved into the stone, the words nearly worn away by time. Power is not granted, it is taken. You reach out, your fingers brushing the ancient letters, and in that moment, the tomb wakes. The temperature drops. The shadows swell. The air thickens, pressing down on you like an invisible hand. And then, the whispers return. Louder this time. Countless voices speaking in unison. The voices of the Sith. You see flashes. Visions burned directly into your mind. A man in ancient armor, eyes glowing with regret. Ajunta Pall, the first Sith Lord, the exile, the one who broke the Jedi code and birthed something far darker. You see him standing on a battlefield of red sand, lightsaber raised against his former brothers. His voice, cracked and weary, whispers through time, "We were betrayed by light, so we became its shadow." The image fades, replaced by others. Lords and emperors, each more terrifying than the last. Naga Sadow, Marka Ragnos, Bane, Revan, Sidious. Names that shaped history with flame and blood. You stumble backward, gasping. The visions feel real. You can still smell the ozone of their sabers, the burning air of their worlds. You can still feel their anger. You fall to one knee, and the voice, that same whisper from before, speaks again. This is the legacy you seek to understand. The hunger that built empires, the darkness that devoured them. Do you still wish to walk this path? You hesitate. You think of the Jedi, of peace, order, control, but even their light feels small here, fragile against the weight of this place. Here, the Force feels alive. Here, it feels free. Your hand trembles as you reach for one of the fallen sabers on the ground. Its hilt is cold and heavy, crusted with age, but when you lift it, it responds. A faint hum fills the chamber. The blade ignites, a trembling crimson line cutting through the dark. You feel it instantly. The energy crawls up your arm like fire, pain, power, fear. But beneath it, something else. Something seductive, strength. You raise the blade higher, and the whispers fall silent. For the first time, the chamber bows to you. The statues watch in silence. The runes pulse faster, and from somewhere deeper, a new presence awakens. The floor trembles. Dust rains from the ceiling, and then, a voice, deeper than thunder, rolls through the temple. "Two there shall be, no more, no less, the rule of two." A whisper turned into law. You hear it echo across centuries, from Darth Bane's lips to every master and apprentice that followed. The truth is simple, cruel, and absolute. One to embody power, and one to crave it. You feel the meaning settle in your chest like a weight of stone. This is not a hierarchy. This is a cycle. Power, betrayal, rebirth, forever. You lower the blade. The red glow paints the walls in blood. You understand now. This place is not just a tomb of the dead. It is a mirror, and what it reflects is you. You take a step toward the throne. The air thickens with anticipation. The closer you come, the more the voices return, not as whispers, but as commands. They urge you to sit, to claim, to become. But as you approach, something shifts in the shadows behind the throne. Two figures flicker into existence, ghostly, indistinct. One, tall and cloaked, power radiating from him like heat from a forge. The other, smaller, his posture humble but his gaze sharp. Master, apprentice. Their lightsabers ignite simultaneously. One red, one darker than red. A color that shouldn't exist. They circle each other in silence. There are no words, no mercy. Only the inevitability of the rule. In one swift movement, the smaller one strikes. The master falls, and as his body dissolves into ash, you realize the truth. This temple has seen this same scene for thousands of years, every master killed, every apprentice waiting to fall next. It is the curse and the beauty of the Sith, the endless hunger that fuels them and consumes them. You feel it pulling at you now. The dark side, subtle, intoxicating, inevitable. It promises everything: strength, freedom, revenge, immortality, all at a price you don't yet understand. The ghosts vanish. The silence returns. You are alone again. The saber hums quietly in your hand, its light fading as the runes on the floor dim. The mist begins to fall back into stillness, like the temple is closing its eyes once more. You stand before the throne of ashes, the final symbol of what every Sith becomes. Dust, legend, memory, and yet, even as the darkness settles again, one truth remains. The Sith are not gone. They never were. They live in the hunger that never dies, the whisper that never fades, the shadow that always waits behind the light. You feel it now, inside you, a flicker, a spark, and somewhere deep within the Force, something ancient stirs and smiles. crackle comes first. Not fire, stone. Ancient plates grinding under their own memory as the corridor inhales around you. Sand hisses in the seams like living ash. Your fingers brush the wall and come away red with iron dust, and in that thin smear you smell the old tang of blood, the sour breath of time, the heat of a world that never truly cools. Korriban watches you. Torchlight, no, not torchlight, flares inside the glyphs overhead, a dim, arterial glow pulsing like a heartbeat. It paints the passage in bruised color, all rust and ember, while somewhere deeper, a low hum gathers, the sound of a blade that hasn't been lit in millennia, still remembering what it means to burn. You take one step, then another. The corridor opens into a long nave, where pillars rise like the ribs of some buried titan. Between them, funerary statues kneel, heads bowed beneath weighty hoods. Sand has smoothed their faces, but the posture remains. Devotion, penance, or hunger masquerading as prayer. Your breath fogs. The temperature drops. The hum becomes a voice. Not around you. Within. Listen. The red in the stone thickens, and the air ripples with heat mirage. A figure gathers from the shimmer, first as smoke, then as shadow, then as a man crowned in nothing but ruin. Armor blackened by 1,000 suns, edges scored by claws and sabers, and the stubborn teeth of survival. A blade at his side, plain and cruel, like an oath hammered into metal. Eyes, there is sorrow there, yes, but not the gentleness of remorse. This sorrow cuts. This sorrow knows the price of the thing it still refuses to abandon. Ajunta Pall looks at you. When he speaks, his voice is wind tracing a name across desert bones. You walk the path of those who would not kneel. The nave contracts. The ribs of stone seem to lean in. You swallow. Your mouth tastes of iron filings and old smoke. I didn't come to kneel, you say. Faint curve touches the corner of his mouth, some echo of pride or warning. Nor did I. Once. He turns, and the nave becomes a gallery of time. The walls shudder, then spill into vision, a hall of the old Jedi, white stone and lamplight, debates that curdled into doctrine, hands raised not in violence but in certainty. You feel the press of that room as if you were there, voices hardening, patience thinning, ideas sharpening to blades. The 100-year darkness does not unfurl like a chronicle, it hits like heat. You taste the first forbidden experiment, the flicker of power in a vial of life, a breath caught and restarted, a wound closed with a thought and opened with a desire. Not cruelty at first, curiosity, the seduction of the line that moves when you question it, the thrill of a limit that yields. Pride arrives later, draped in conviction. You see Ajunta standing among them, not as a monster, not yet, but as a thinker whose questions refuse to stop at the fence. When the council draws a border, he does not argue. He steps through, because he can, because the light insists on restraint, and he tastes only silence where there should be answers. The vision fractures into battle. Cloaks flare, blades erupt, blue against red, order against refusal. You feel exhaustion, the kind that sinks into bone, not from the clash itself, but from the argument that preceded it, fought 1,000 times in 1,000 rooms where no one changed and everyone hardened. On Korriban, in the nave, Ajunta watches the memory without flinching. We were not born evil, he says, the words flat as anvils. We were born stubborn. The gallery turns black. The white hall collapses into exile, harsh, immediate, absolute. A fleet exiled to the dark between worlds, engines humming like a punishment's drumbeat. The starfields out there are unfamiliar and hungry. Even light looks different when it passes judgment. Ships rattle, rations thin. Old certainties lose their shine, and then you feel it, gravity tugging at the fleet, drawing them toward a world that glows like a coal at the edge of a hearth. Korriban. The descent is not gentle. The atmosphere scrapes the hulls like teeth. When the doors open, heat hits in a red wave that stings the eyes and cracks the lips. The sand here does not blow. It crawls, inching along the ground like a living cloak. The exiles stumble onto the surface, blinking at a sky the color of dried blood, and raise their hands against the glare. They are ragged, tired, proud. So are you. The natives arrive out of the mirage, the Sith species, tall and severe, with their own old pride and their own older wounds. They bear relics that hum in the throat, amulets that whisper when they pass near your skin. Their rulers carry themselves with the slow gravity of stone worn by wind, patient, ceremonial, dangerous. Diplomacy does not happen. Recognition does. Outcasts meet a people accustomed to casting out. The mirror is harsh and satisfying. You feel the first pact settle not like a handshake, but like a weight across shoulders. The beginning of godhood and servitude woven together in one garment. We did not conquer them, Ajunta says. We learned to speak a tongue we already knew. The gallery steadies into palaces carved from cliffside. Torches, real ones, fill the night with a pitch-thick sweetness. You stand beside Ajunta on a balcony overlooking a sea of kneeling figures. Their chants vibrate too. He's stone under your boots. The exiles wear new regalia now. More metal, harsher lines, designs that seem to drink the starlight around them. A crown is not placed on Ajunta's head. It accretes, day by day, like sediment hardened by will. From below, priests of the old faith offer their library of bones and rites. Ajunta and his cohort walk those shelves with patient reverence and a scientist's appetite. Here is a ritual that binds life to hunger. Here is a gesture that stiffens a dying breath so it won't escape. Here is a name that is not your name, but fits your mouth like a remembered taste. Sith, the word is a door. The exiles step through. Power multiplies when language agrees to carry it. You feel exultation spill into the city like spilled wine. Thick, staining, impossible to clean. Not merely victory over banishment, a redefinition of exile as origin. A people are adopted, a pantheon is born. A new myth begins telling itself as if it were always true. And in the center of it all, Ajunta Pall stands very still, a half smile carved into the scar along his jaw, listening not for praise but for the next edge, the next border to cross. In the nave, his presence fades, just for a breath, as if the telling costs him. Power, he says at last, is a teacher that never forgives you for learning. His gaze cuts sideways. The vision follows. It slides down into the catacombs beneath the palaces, where the air is cooler and the lamps are fewer, and the sound your heartbeat makes feels like intrusion. You descend with him into a chamber that does not want you, where stones are arranged in patterns too precise to be decoration, and the floor is a mosaic of bone dust pressed until it gleams like tile. Here, Ajunta's armor looks heavier on his shoulders. He kneels at a slab where a body lies shrouded, a friend, a lover, a rival. The dark side is meticulous with categories, but grief misnames on purpose. Ajunta's hands hover above the cloth, then press down, and the ritual begins. Words older than the sand thread out of his mouth. Symbols lift from the slab like smoke. The shroud rustles. Breath draws in where no breath should be. A small, stubborn sound that makes every hair rise along your arms. You feel triumph punch through sorrow. Then you feel the cost. The body sits up, its eyes open. They see him. They see you. And they do not know the difference between the living and what refuses to die. The room tastes of copper pennies and something sweet that rots the teeth. The resurrected mouth moves, finds nothing it recognizes, and begins to scream. Ajunta doesn't flinch. He listens. He learns. And when the lesson is complete, he lays the body down again with a tenderness that almost redeems the act. Almost. He stands, and the crown on his head, invisible, inevitable, grows heavier. Immortality, he says, as if spitting out grit, is not a gift. It is a gravity. The chamber darkens. The resurrected breath thins into silence. In the palace above, celebration, conquest, ceremony. Below, the math of consequence tallying without end. You feel it in your bones now, the pivot point where hunger becomes identity. The dark Jedi are gone, not by decree, but by evolution. They are lords now. They have a people, a world, a scripture written in heat and precision. The order they abandoned will call them monsters, and some of them will become exactly that, because every accusation is a seed if you water it long enough. Ajunta watches the city's lights tremble in the heat haze. We told ourselves we were building a refuge, he says quietly. We were building a mirror. He steps close. Sir, for the first time the sorrow in his eyes softens at the edges, as if the sharpness cannot sustain itself forever. Do you know the worst part of becoming a god? You can explain everything. Silence swells. The nave hums like a throat swallowing. You feel paranoia crawl into the edges of the vision. Not fear of enemies, fear of heirs. Apprentices who learn too quickly. Generals who salute too perfectly. Priests whose prayers are almost commands. The city loves, and love demands proof. Proof demands spectacle. Spectacle demands blood. Korriban understands. It gives the appetite a stage big enough for a planet. The first rebellion is small, petty. It ends in a courtyard with red-streaked stone and a speech about unity. The second rebellion is larger and ends in a pyramid pierced with spears of light. The third rebellion looks like a feast until the cups smoke. The fourth never even raises its voice. It only waits. Ajunta's armor looks heavier still. In the nave, the hum lowers to a drone you can feel in your teeth. The statues' bowed heads seem to sink a little more, as if gravitating toward the floor. Sand skitters across the mosaic in tiny avalanches. You don't know when you started clenching your jaw. The ache reaches into your temples. Regret is a scholar, Ajunta says. It collects. It does not forgive. The vision tilts. You see him alone in a chamber that refuses to keep time. The sword at his side is wrapped, bound not to hide it, but to keep it from speaking. You feel the curse clinging to it like cold oil. The blade remembers every life it ended and will not let its owner forget. He set out to break limits. The limits retaliated by breaking him, not in body, worse, in purpose. Achievements blur into cautions. Triumphs curdle into warnings, whispered to ears too eager to listen. He looks at you. Not through you, not past you, at you. The first flame was not the beginning, he says. It was the moment the dark learned our name. The nave breathes in, the red glyphs brighten, and a pressure, light as a hand, heavy as a world, pushes between your shoulder blades, nudging you toward the far end of the hall, where another door waits, sealed and patient. Behind it, you can sense them, the exiles who took Ajunta's lesson and sharpened it into empire, into rupture, into serpents, wrestling in the dark until the rule of two is the only leash left. You don't move. Ajunta's presence begins to thin, like smoke attempting to keep the shape of a man. The sorrow in his eyes does not leave. It clarifies. Remember, he says, a command that sounds like a plea. We were not born of hate. We learned it, and we were very good students. The corridor wind rises. Sand tick-ticks along the floor. A long, low thunder rolls through the bones of the temple as if some massive engine beneath Korriban has fired after sleeping too long. The figures in stone bow a fraction deeper. The blade at Ajunta's side whispers inside its bindings, a sound like a name you do not want to hear yourself say. You reach for it. His hand shoots up, weightless, incorporeal, but the gesture stops you like a wall. The first flame burns everything, he murmurs. Start there if you must, but understand what you light. The glyphs snap to darkness. The nave drops into silence so complete your heartbeat sounds like a drum for an army that hasn't arrived yet. You stand with your palm hovering above air where a sword used to be, with grit against your teeth and heat in your lungs, and a lesson ringing in your bones like struck iron. Ajunta Pall is gone, but the regret remains. Etched into the stone like a second set of glyphs only you can see. The knowledge that exile became empire. That curiosity became doctrine, that a man became a myth, and the myth became a hunger that wears 1,000 faces and calls each of them necessary. From beyond the sealed door, you hear footsteps, not memory, approaching. The sand shivers at your feet. The temperature climbs. The next chapter of the story gathers itself like a storm about to choose a city. You look at the door and feel the first real fear since entering Korriban, not of death, not of failure. Of becoming exactly what the corridor expects. You step forward. The first flame follows. It begins with the sound of boots, thousands of them, marching in unison. The rhythm rolls across the dunes like thunder, steady, inevitable. Alive. The air itself seems to tremble with it. You can taste the grit of Korriban's sand between your teeth, hot and metallic, carried on winds that reek of ozone and sweat and defiance. You march with them, with the fallen. The sky above burns orange and red, like the horizon itself is bleeding. Around you stretch the dark Jedi, exiles draped in tattered cloaks, faces hidden, armor stripped of Republic insignias, but still glinting with the pride of those who once served the light. Once, you were among them. Once you called yourself Jedi. Now the word feels like poison. The march slows as the army crests a ridge. Below, in the valley, the red sands of Korriban churn with movement. Slaves, soldiers, and acolytes, building what will soon be a city of obsidian and bone. A forge for a new empire. The first Sith Empire. You feel the weight of it. the birth of something monstrous and magnificent all at once, the kind of creation that demands blood to breathe. The wind howls, it smells of lightning and rage. The banners of the fallen crack in the heat. At their center walks a figure wrapped in dark crimson robes, his stride measured, his silence louder than war drums. His name is forgotten to time now, one of Ajunta Pall's lieutenants, but his power hums through the air like a live wire. Every step he takes sends ripples through the force, waves that crash through your chest. He doesn't look back when he speaks. None of them do. "We are not refugees," he says, his voice low, iron on sand. "We are architects." The soldiers answer with silence, not fear, reverence. You feel it spreading through you like fever, the intoxicating pull of shared purpose, the unity born not of peace, but of rage. The Republic cast them out, branded them heretics, monsters, and so they will become exactly that, not to repent, to remember. By nightfall, campfires flicker across the valley. The air glows with a dull red hue, the light from the forges painting long, jagged shadows across the sand. You sit among them, exiles all, your armor cracked and blackened, your hands still raw from battle. Around you the stories flow like wine. One whispers of the Massassi, the native warriors of Korriban, red-skinned giants who kneel before the dark Jedi as gods. Another speaks of Ajunta Pall himself, whose power bends stone and bone alike, who tore open the very fabric of the Force to bind this world to his will. Each tale grows darker, each voice deeper, and somewhere in it all you begin to feel pride, because here, in this place, weakness dies. Here, you are no longer chained by councils or codes or questions. Here, you are reborn. A sudden tremor cuts through the air. The fire ripples, the sand jumps. You rise instinctively, hand on your saber hilt. Then you see it. In the distance, beyond the unfinished walls of the new city, a pillar of black smoke rises. The horizon flashes red, then white. A scream rolls through the valley. Not human. The Massassi revolt. For all their devotion, the natives have begun to fear what they serve. And fear, on Korriban, always ends in blood. You run. The others run with you. The night explodes in chaos, blades igniting in a chorus of crimson, the sky pulsing with bursts of lightning and fire. You reach the outer fields. The ground is soaked with the dark ichor of the slain. The Massassi charge like beasts, their roars shaking the air, their primitive weapons crackling with stolen power. You ignite your saber. Its red light bathes your face, and then you fall into the storm. The battle is a blur of heat and sound, clashing blades, shattered stone, the taste of ash on your tongue. You move without thought, your strikes fueled not by defense but by fury. You feel the Force thrumming through you, raw, wild, unrestrained. You are not a Jedi tonight. You are something older, something hungrier. A scream tears through the din. A woman falls beside you, one of your own. Her eyes meet yours for a fraction of a second before they fade to glass. The rage that follows is pure, white-hot, unfiltered. You drive forward, cutting through the horde, each swing a heartbeat, each heartbeat a vow. When it ends, the silence is deafening. The fires burn higher now, painting the valley redder than blood. The Massassi are broken, their rebellion crushed, their loyalty reforged. You stand among the fallen, chest heaving, blade dimming. Around you, the exiles gather again, bloodied and breathless, but alive. The lieutenant steps into the firelight. His armor is scorched, his face streaked with soot, but his eyes gleam with cold satisfaction. He raises his saber high. The army kneels. From somewhere deep within the storm of the Force you hear it, faint at first, then louder, until it drowns out everything else. A heartbeat, not yours. The planet's. Korriban itself breathes, and in that breath, you feel the dark side bloom like a wound reopening. Days turn into weeks. The rebellion's blood has barely dried when construction resumes. The forges burn day and night, fueled by the labor of the broken and the ambition of the exiled. Obsidian spires rise from the sand like teeth. You walk to, hose corridors as they take shape, walls carved with the stories of the fallen, chambers designed not for comfort, but for awe. The first Sith temples are being born, not as sanctuaries, but as declarations. Every brick whispers the same truth. We will not be forgotten. You pause at one such wall. The carvings depict the war that brought you here. Jedi and Dark Jedi locked in eternal struggle. You trace your hand along the image of a fallen knight, his lightsaber extinguished, his body turning to dust. The stone feels warm beneath your fingers, alive. A shadow stirs beside you. Ajunta Pall himself. His voice is quiet, hoarse, almost human. They cast us out for seeking truth, he says. So we built our own. You look at him, the man who started it all. His armor carries the stains of centuries. His eyes are old but not weak. There's a gravity to his presence, as if the force bends around him in respect or fear. What truth, you ask? He turns his gaze toward the city. That power is not the enemy. Fear of power is. The Jedi deny their nature. We embrace it. His words settle like embers in your chest. You want to believe him. You already do. He looks back at you, almost with pity. But the fire we hold will consume us all the same. You open your mouth to speak, but the words die, because in that moment, you see it. The city, alive, growing, hungry. The Dark Jedi are no longer exiles. They are kings. And yet, every one of them already looks over their shoulder. By the time the suns rise again, the valley is silent. You stand atop a balcony carved into the cliffs, the wind tearing at your cloak. Below, thousands of acolytes kneel in perfect symmetry. The lieutenant, the same who led the march, steps forward beside Ajunta Pall. He raises his hands. The crowd bows deeper. From exile, he declares, his voice carrying across the dunes. We were born anew. We are no longer Jedi, no longer bound by the light. We are Sith. The word hits you like a strike. It resonates in your bones, echoing through every nerve, through every scar. Sith. The crowd erupts in a single, unified roar. The sound is a living thing, raw, primal, transcendent. You feel it in your chest, in your blood, in your soul. The lieutenant turns to Ajunta. Your flame lit the path, he says. Ours will build the empire. Ajunta says nothing. His eyes flick to you instead, and for a fleeting moment, you see sorrow there, but it's gone before you can name it. The drums begin again, those same boots, that same rhythm. But this time, it's not exile, it's empire. You march once more, the red banners rising in the wind, the air thick with the scent of ash and victory. Every step you take leaves a mark on the sand that will never fade. And as the twin suns sink behind the horizon, you understand the truth at last. The Sith were not born from darkness. They were born from rejection, and rejection, given enough time, becomes revenge. It is the cold that speaks first, not a wind, not a breath. A silence so frigid it peels the warmth from your lungs as you inhale, a hush that sets needles under your skin. Snow, no, ash, falls in lazy spirals, each flake carrying the faint metallic scent of old fires and older vows. Your boots break a crust of frost over black stone, and the sound echoes down an avenue lined with giants. Statues once, kings once, now only shoulders without faces, heads without crowns. Ziost watches you the way an empty throne watches a room, with memory, not mercy. You step forward and the avenue of triumph groans under your weight. The slabs are inlaid with a darker mineral that drinks light. The seams between them glow faintly red, as if the planet remembers how to bleed. On either side, toppled colossi lie half buried in rime. Warriors, priests, emperors, arms broken, fingers splayed, palms up to catch nothing but snow. You place your hand on the base of one ruined plinth. The stone is colder than metal, slick with ice, and for a heartbeat you feel a phantom pressure against your palm, as if the monument presses back, refusing to be pitied. You came to Ziost to witness power. Instead, you find what power becomes. A gust funnels down the boulevard, hissing through the hollow mouths of cracked gargoyles, rattling through iron banners that no longer bear sigils. Somewhere far ahead, something heavy shifts and settles. A palace sighing in its sleep. You pull your cloak tighter, and the fabric bites your neck with a wet chill. The ash tastes like pepper and old coins. Listen, a memory whispers, and Ziost obliges. The street around you brightens, not with light, but with use. The dark veins in the stone throb. The snow evaporates into steam that smells of resin and burning oil. For a breath, Ruin becomes procession. You hear the thud, thud, thud of armored feet, drums sinking to hearts. Thou, sands of voices bowing the air into a single note. A palanquin passes, a black box veiled in chains, its bearers masked, their breath fogging in disciplined bursts. Priests chant in a language that tastes like iron filings. The Empire walks. Then the mirage snaps. The cold returns. Your exhale fogs and drifts away like a moth. You keep walking. The avenue breaks into a square so broad it bullies the horizon. At its center rises the carcass of a fountain, a black bowl cracked into petals, the water long frozen into a gray mirror that still trembles under some subterranean pulse. Reliefs ring the basin, conquests mapped as constellations, cities rearranged into sigils, faces carved so perfectly they almost blink when the light moves. Darkness gathers here, the way fog gathers over deep water. You kneel and brush frost from one panel, a stylized throne, high-backed and horned, flanked by serpents that swallow each other's tails. The stone around it is worn smooth by hands. Petitioners, supplicants, conspirators, every touch a vote cast for fear. A crack marches through the throne's heart. You stand and feel the square's geometry pull at you, a tug not of gravity but of design. Every line, every gutter, every drain, every broken eye socket points to the same place, the palace. It squats at the far edge of the square like a mountain that decided to become a building. Spires claw at the sky. Windows stare like old wounds. A stairway climbs toward its doors, too wide for comfort, each step a platform for speech or execution. You climb. Halfway up, the air changes. The cold doesn't relent, but something rides it, an odor like singed hair and extinct flowers. You recognize it. The smell of ritual flame, long doused but never forgiven. Your calves burn, your breath rasps. The stairs magnify your heartbeat into a drum. You have to set your jaw to keep it from rattling loose. At the door's iron, ribbed and scarred with heat warps, open just enough to invite or trap. Your fingers numb against the metal as you push. The hinges complain in a voice like a glacier cracking. Inside, the dark is organized. Columns march in ranks toward a ceiling lost to shadow. Chains hang in catenaries between them, some still holding manacles, some holding nothing, all of them singing a faint, dry music when the draft moves. The floor is polished obsidian, scarred by a constellation of grooved circles, dueling rings, each one surrounded by a storm of tiny, shallow impacts where sabers missed bodies and bit stone. You take a step. The obsidian shows you back, smaller than you feel, more human than you want. A whisper slides across the hall. Not a word, but a sound your brain insists on translating anyway. Kneel. Your throat tightens with an answer you refuse to give. The whisper slides again. Different now. Curious. Why did you come? Because ruins are honest. Because power lies and aftermath tells the truth. You walk toward the throne. It is not the one from the relief. That throne belonged to myth. This one belongs to a body. The seat is worn smooth where hips sat, the armrests polished by fingers, the forward edge nicked by a blade drawn in anger too quickly, too often. Frost feathers its base, delicate and temporary. A lace the next breath will break. As you near, your soles crunch over something invisible. You crouch, swipe a line through frost, and brush up a drift of ash so fine it acts like smoke. Bone dust. The hall is carpeted with the equalized. You place a hand on the armrest. Cold shoots up your arm like a warning, then deepens into weight, into a presence that does not love or hate you, only measures you. Ziost is not sentimental. Ziost is a ledger. The hall inhales. You see it, not a vision, not entirely. A memory hammered so hard into the room that time has to walk around it. The throne is occupied. The figure seated there is stillness weep, ownized. An emperor, a lord, a man whose face has been simplified by habit into decision and contempt. Courtiers pool like fabric around the dais. Scarlet hoods, iron collars, rings heavy enough to alter gait. Anemic light pours through high slits, and dust performs theater in it. At the foot of the dais, two kneel, brothers by face or vow. One speaks. His voice is a knife wrapped in velvet. The other lowers his head, and the motion is either survival or betrayal. In palaces, the difference is timing. The occupant of the throne raises a finger. You feel the force rip through the room like a net through water. The kneeling one stiffens. His breath snaps short. His eyes widen to moons. Not lightning, not even touch. a refusal, to allow a heart to beat, to allow a throat to open, to allow a life to remain itself. When the body collapses, it does so soundlessly, like an idea being erased. The memory fades. The ash on the floor knows its own story too well to clap. You step back, dizzy. Pride and nausea wrangle in your chest. Disgust too near to awe, awe too near to desire. Ziost holds your ambivalence up like a jewel and turns it in the light. Is this what you came for? The hall asks without speaking. You swallow. No, you answer, though a part of you wonders. A sound interrupts. The faintest chime. You turn. At the edge of the dais, a narrow door has winked open. A seam where there was none. Cold spills from it with intent. The chime comes again, not metal on metal, but crystal touched by thought. You enter. The corridor beyond is made for secrets. Low, narrow, its angles fractionally wrong, so your inner ear complains and your patience frays. Symbols crawl along its spine, serpents biting tails, eyes that are also black suns, scripts form-shifting at the edges of comprehension. Your lamp beads the walls with weak light. The glyphs drink most of it and leave you the cone. Lore of a bruise. The passage kinks and descends. Frost thickens until it crunches underfoot. Your breath fogs and clings to your lips. Then, another door, this one open already. Eager, its hinges rimed white. The chamber is smaller than it wants you to believe. Its ceiling is too low for its ambition. The floor is a map of circles within circles, each ring etched with numbers that aren't numbers, each intersection a shallow dish filled with opaque ice. In the exact center, on a pedestal of black glass, rests a crystal like a length of frozen smoke, a holocron. It hums without sound. A pressure in the teeth, a cold on the gums. You step closer and the air thins, not from lack of oxygen but from unwillingness to share. State your claim, says a voice that is also the absence of a voice. You don't move. You've already learned what speaking costs in rooms like this. The holocron rotates, slow as a thought becoming a promise. Images skitter across its facets. Cities kneeling, stars winking out, faces simplified by distance into masks. Then a sigil resolves, stark and patient, a crown framed by horns, a vertical slash through its heart. Marca Ragnos. Not here, not now. But Ziost still offers him like a coin you can spend later. The crystal brightens, and the chamber reorganizes itself into then. You stand now in the same small space, made enormous by function. The map on the floor is a galaxy. Not accurate, not precise, but true in the way art can be truer than measurement. Hands hover over points of light. A voice explains supply lanes in terms of worship, conscription in terms of geometry. The empire did not spread by force alone. It flowed along the channels carved by fear and need, the way water finds old riverbeds in new storms. You feel a surge of pride, not at conquest, at competence, the cold honesty of a machine that does what it was built to do. Then another memory bleeds in. A later meeting in the same room. The map no longer glows evenly. Systems flicker, lines stutter, voices are quicker, thinner, so sharp they snap. The same hands draw the same shapes harder, as if pressure can make them obey. You know this feeling. Every empire learns it. The moment the tool won't answer to the name that once woke it, the crystal dims. Ziost remembers, says the absence. So do I, you answer, and realize it's true. Not your memories. And yet, time here is a suggestion you're too polite to refuse. The holocron pulses once more, bright, then brighter, then so bright the darkness seems to buckle. For an instant you see a face in the facets. Not Ragnos, not a king, something older, a mouth full of teeth arranged like a calendar, an eye that is also a mirror. The pedestal shudders. The cold climbs your shins like a tide. Tiny cracks spider through the ice-filled dishes at your feet, each one emitting a sound like a glass chime. The chamber is waking a machine it promised never to wake again. You step back. The door does not oblige. The map lines on the floor ignite, cold blue, then blood red. The circles begin to turn against one another with the faintest scrape. Somewhere above, heavy things answer. Shutters sliding, vents yawning. A palace taking a breath after centuries. You reach for the force and meet not resistance, but audience. Ziost watches you watch it. The feeling is obscene and intimate. State your claim, the absence repeats, not patient now but curious. Your mouth is dry. Your heart has discovered a new alarming rhythm. You think of the avenue, of the ash caught in the seams of stone, of the throne's worn edge and the exact spot a blade nicked it, of the way the Empire spoke in geometry when words failed. You think of what power becomes when it outlives its purpose. You bow your head, not kneeling, not submitting, acknowledging a host. I have none, you say. I came to learn what I will become if I forget why I came. The chamber listens. The circles slow. The linten gutter and go dark. The cold recedes like a hand withdrawing from your spine. The holocron's facets settle back into smoke. The door opens. The first thing you hear is the chain, not clanking, singing. A low iron hymn threaded through rock, a vibration that makes the dust on the floor dance in tiny rings around your boots. The tomb breathes with it, slow, old. The air tastes of cold metal and scorched resin, of incense burned to the dregs and left to haunt the stone. Your lamp flares once, then steadies. The light reveals a corridor that feels like a throat. You step inside. Walls slope inward, forcing your shoulders tight, paneled with black stone veined like old ice. Each panel bears a single glyph cut so deep it could be a wound. None of them are translated. All of them are understood. Kneel, endure, become. Your fingers skim the carvings. They are colder than the air, cold enough that the heat in your skin recoils. The chain hum swells the deeper you go, and the floor begins to tilt, slipping you down into the earth at a grade that insists you chose this even if you didn't. The passage opens without warning. The chamber is vast, a carved abyss. Pillars ring it like a jury, each wrapped in bands of iron etched with names, titles, oaths. Between them, braziers squat on tripods, dark, unlit, yet wreathed in the aftersmell of flame. At the center rises the sarcophagus, a slab of obsidian stretched into a throne-shaped coffin, its lid engraved with a figure whose face is an argument won long ago. Marka Ragnos, Dark Lord of the Sith, Lord of the very long calculus, the man who taught an empire to be still until it moved. You move closer. Here, the dust does not lie flat. It spirals in patterns like eddies in a black river, as if the chamber has weather. Your breath fogs and curls, and doesn't quite behave like breath. The chain hum resolves into rhythm, two notes separated by an interval that makes the back of your neck ache. It is not music. It is arrangement. When you touch the edge of the sarcophagus, the T, Ambi answers. The braziers ignite in sequence. Foom, 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 white hot at the core, bleeding outward into a disciplined red. Shadows rise like banners. The pillars lean or seem to, as if straining to see what you will do. And from the lid, no crack, no hinge, something tall unfolds from nothing. Not a specter, not a flame, a presence. It towers, not infinitely, exactly enough. Armor drapes it in angles that refuse ornament. The crown is practical, the lines severe, the silhouette an equation solved to a blade. The face is almost human and entirely inevitable. Two eyes weigh you with the patience granite wishes it had. When it speaks, the braziers lower their flames on instinct. Stand, says Marka Ragnos. You didn't kneel. Your body flinches anyway, as if catching a correction you hadn't made. The voice is not loud. It's precise. Every syllable is placed, and you feel where to stand before you decide to stand there. You step onto a ring of darker stone you hadn't noticed, an old dueling circle polished by centuries of decisions. Ragnos turns his head a fraction. The chain hum deepens, and with it the walls disclose their memories. You see a corridor of years, not visions that crash over you like storms. Discipline turned into picture. Warriors kneeling in perfect rows, helms pressed to the floor. Not adoration, calibration. Priests chant, but each cadence counts something. Rations, blades, breath. A general speaks, and his words are not metaphor, they are math. The empire at its early peak ranks aligned to the gravity of a single mind. Ragnos does not move while you witness the empire he made. Do you know what chaos admires? He asks without looking at you. Order. His gaze returns, and your spine discovers new muscles to hold itself properly. You think dominance is an eruption, he continues. It is a ritual. He lifts a hand, not high, enough to begin the right lesson. The chamber tilts again, and the procession becomes moment. You are outside the tomb now. Know then, beneath the canyon of Korriban's sky, two figures face each other beyond a funeral bier heavy with chains. One bears jewels like arguments, the other wears austerity like armor. Ludo Kresh, Naga Sado, succession disguised as grief, power shopping for the proper vessel. Between them, the air thickens, and Ragnos arrives. Not walking, not flying, present. His spirit condenses, as if the planet itself concedes him a shape. His eyes burn the same disciplined red as the braziers. His voice folds the very wind into obedience. He raises a blade that never quite becomes solid and touches the moment like a judge touches a gavel. The riot in the crowd collapses into geometry. Kresh's fury stalls at the exact angle that allows him to live. Sado's hunger sharpens into a smile that knows how and when to wait. The funeral becomes a coronation because Ragnos decides that loss is a tool, and the Sith, wild, fractious, proud, become, for a breath measured in centuries, a single creature that breathes in time. The vision releases you back into the chamber. Ragnos lowers his hand. This, he says, almost kindly, is rule. Your jaw has clenched hard enough to ache. You unclench it, and the ache remains. He circles the sarcophagus with a movement that appears slow and arrives immediately. The braziers gutter, then steady. Around you, the pillars' inscriptions whisper in a wind that has no source. You catch fragments, campaigns named like prayers, treaties that are also threats. Years counted by the weight of harvest and the number of uprisings that did not happen because a gate was placed where a gate should be. Triumph is not a wave, Ragnos says. It is a reservoir. He stops, looks at your stance, adjusts you with a glance, not cruelty, calibration. You shift weight to the balls of your feet without understanding why. Your breath finds a measure. Your fear does not leave. It learns to stand straight. He gestures again, and the tomb performs another precise miracle. Now you are inside the machinery of his reign. Maps unfurl like living skin across the air, all reds and smokes and precise voids where voids are useful. Courier routes hum like veins. Garrisons blink with the patient rhythm of well-fed hearts. The trade of tribute flows. Grain, steel, spice, mines. Planets do not kneel, they incline, compelled by gravity that feels natural because it is enforced with taste. He points once and the map darkens over a rebellious world. The army does not move. The ports do. The world starves exactly enough days to remember its manners, and when the food ships arrive on a schedule the planet doesn't know Ragnos learned from the weather. The cheers sound convincing even to themselves. Mercy is cheaper than conquest, he notes. So long as it is rationed, you do not nod, you file it. In your bones, something old approves. The map contracts to a star. It flares. Ragnos regards it the way a farmer regards rain. Grateful, wary. We grew, he says. We did not race. There is a difference. A difference you feel like a blade laid along your neck. Cold, measured, teaching you where your pulse lives. The visions close. The chain hum quiets to a tone you can almost ignore. The braziers burn smaller, neater. Ragnos returns to the exact center of the circle as if summoned by his own geometry. His gaze never softens, but a shadow of approval crosses it, eclipse thin, enough to make heat tighten in your chest. You came to learn dominance, he says. You will learn restraint. You blink. He smiles with half a mouth. A saber is a promise, he says. If you ignite it every time your hand twitches, your word has no weight. The lesson lands with the force of a fall. You feel your past acts rearranging themselves under its gravity. The fights you picked for hunger. The oaths you made because noise felt like movement. Ragnos watches you as one might watch a tool begin to understand what it was made to do. Fear, he adds, is useful when it is predictable. He steps closer. The chamber seems to shrink to make room for him, or you grow smaller to be accurate according to his standard. He lifts a hand toward your chest, stops, just shy of touch. The air between skin and gauntlet tightens until your heart mistakes it for pressure. Your weakness, he says, is appetite without schedule. Heat rises in your face. Pride flares. Shame follows with better posture. You will correct it, he says. And the sentence does not care if it is a question. Something stubborn in you answers anyway. And when restraint fails, the braziers lean in. The chain finds a darker note. Ragnos's eyes, which have not yet been surprised in their long career, do not quite enjoy the new sensation. Then you will choose your failure. He pauses, a courtesy to the thought forming behind his words. And you will fail on time. A laugh escapes you before it's born. It dies of exposure 3 inches from your teeth. Ragnos pivots, no wasted arc, and the sarcophagus's lid answers him with a whisper of stone. For the first time you see the interior, not a bed, a vault. Implements lie in ranked places, no gold, no gems, tools of keeping, seals, scales, a stylus whose point has been sharpened so many times it is mostly decision. He lifts nothing. He lets you see that he could. The Sith rise, he says, when we remember the difference between hunger and starvation. His hand hovers above the stylus, stops, returns. And we fall, he says, when we mistake noise for thunder. Silence stands between you like a wall you are being trained to climb. Finally, he asks, what will you keep? You look down into the vault and find, to your irritation, that you have an answer before you invent one. The schedule, you say, the reservoir, the blade after the breath. Ragnos inclines his head the width of a coin. Then go, he says, already turning away, already done with you in the way that means you passed. Tell them what rule is. The braziers fold their flames to wicks. The pillars resume the posture of stone. The chain resumes its useful song. The tomb exhales a draft that smells faintly of iron and time. You should leave. You don't. Not yet. Your gaze catches on a mark at the sarcophagus edge. A nick, shallow, precise, at the exact spot where a blade was once sheathed with more force than needed. It is the only unmeasured gesture in the room, and it hooks you. Ragnos notices where you're looking. He does not frown. He lets the lesson have teeth. Discipline, he says without turning, is not the absence of anger. He faces you fully one last time. And now the king is gone. The teacher remains, brutal and generous in equal measure. It is the leash. The braziers extinguish. Dark falls with the softness of velvet and the weight of law. The chain's song fades to a rumor. The cold returns, honest and thorough. You are alone with the outline of a coffin and the echo of a cadence that has already entered your bones. At the threshold, the corridor seems narrower, but your shoulders fit it without scraping now. The glyphs under your hand do not sting. They record, kneel, endure, become. Behind you in the dark, something considers you and chooses not to call you back. You climb toward the surface. When the door opens to Korriban's night, the wind tastes of ash and victory held on a short leash. In the distance, banners do not snap. They align. The sky is the color of a blade before it drinks light. You find your breath finding time, your steps finding count. Above the horizon, 2 lesser lights attempt a storm. They will not be Ragnos. They will be permitted. You pull your cloak close and descend from the tomb with a posture you did not bring in. The sand takes your prints and folds them into a marching pattern older than the dunes. Do not look back, but the last line follows you out, settling in your ear like an oath you haven't yet decided to swear. Rule them, or rule yourself first. It starts with a smell you can't mistake. Ozone and hot metal, split-second scents that always arrive just before something tears. The command balcony shivers beneath your boots, glass panels humming as the void outside thrashes with light. Red alarms lick the ceiling in slow pulses. Your tongue tastes copper. Your palms sweat inside cold gloves. Beyond the transparent steel, the stars are wrong. They flicker, vanish, return, blotted by the vast silhouettes of warships crossing and recrossing each other's fields of fire. Crimson lances carve ink out of the dark. Engines scream like animals. The wreckage of an hour ago drifts on silent currents, tumbling hulls that still bleed atmosphere in glittering threads. Somewhere, a carrier's spine snaps in two. You don't hear it. You feel the deck thump as shockwaves crawl the distance between tragedy and witness. Lord Sadao requests status, a voice says. Too steady, too practiced, too late. You answer without turning. You've learned the ritual of calm. Tell him the fleet holds. That is not true. The fleet clings. Your eyes run the grid again. Sado's knives and crescents, sleek and hungry. Kresh's blockier dreadnoughts, fat with guns and righteousness. The two formations overlap like teeth. Every volley lands against blood that shares the same color. Traitors, someone whispers, not convinced, only rehearsing a word they were given. You stare at the tactical projection floating above the pit. Its lines flex and twitch like a living net. On one edge, decoy sigils bloom and fade. Phantom ships that draw fire, phantom boarders who crash into corridors that do not exist. On the other, disciplined columns advance exactly 3 degrees too slow, daring fate to misread patience as permission. Sado's art versus Kresh's certainty. Twin serpents, knotting around a single throat. The Empire itself. You close your hand until bone answers. Because you can feel it. The moment discipline taught you by Ragnos becomes an artifact. Out here, restraint is a rumor. Out here, hunger writes the minutes. Enemy formation rotating, the sensor chief calls. No, both formations rotating. A flash blanks the stars. When vision returns, night is full of new fire. Boarding craft spit from Sado's carriers in glittering chains, needle shapes burrowing into Kreshian hulls like thoughts you can't dislodge once you allow them. You've trained for this. You've read the calculus of betrayal in old stone. Yet when it arrives, it still shocks. The speed with which family becomes target, the quiet you feel where pride used to sit. You steady your breath, you count. On 7, the deck lifts, your ship rolling hard starboard, shields shivering as something ugly kisses your flank. The helmsman swears without sound, hands a blur over the yoke. Compensate, you say, and your voice is Ragnos' lesson wearing your throat. The helmsman does. You remain upright because the way you stand is now a habit you did not own yesterday. A new signature blooms at the edge of the board, small, cold, deliberate. In the dark behind Sado's line, a cluster of signals flower and die in tidy sequence, like beads of mercury jumping on a hot plate. Sabotage. From inside Sado's own reserves, you lean closer. The pattern is too clean to be chance, too elegant to be accident. A second cluster answers across the field, inside Kresh's rear echelon. Engines hiccup, reactors yawn. Crews stare in good order at instruments that suddenly insist on silence. It takes you one beat to understand. Sado has loyalists, Kresh has loyalists, and Naga Sado has Sado, a third entity walking the deck plates between both camps while wearing patience like a mask. Lord, the comms officer says, tight with disbelief. Kresh's flagship is broadcasting an open parley. They want ceasefire terms. Every head lifts as if pulled by a single wire. Across the dark, a great ship, broad-shouldered, gold-chased, its prow a threat carved into law, ooches forward out of its circle. Lights blink in a sequence older than any council. Speak, listen, choose. Sado answers before Kresh is done. He does not move his line. He does not cut thrust. He sends a sleek corvette ahead like a knife in a sleeve. Its running lights wink low, submissive. Its hull narrows its width with shadow. It flies trust at the correct speed. It is beautiful the way a lie can be beautiful when it has rehearsed enough. You do not breathe while the two ships meet. Visual, you say. The screen obeys. The corridor that opens between them is graceful and treacherous in equal measure. Magnetics click, seals throw kisses. Through the lock's thick window you glimpse the parley team, robes that remember palaces, masks that never learn to laugh, hands empty to prove a point. Sado does not come. He sends other versions of himself, idealized, deniable, disposable. Across from them waits Kresh's envoy, broad-limbed, uncompromising, a jaw built for edicts. The lock cycles. Air meets air, word meets word. Your stomach tightens because the sensor board shows you what the eye cannot. Minute heat signatures ghosting along the envoy corridor. Too fast, too light, too cold. Sado's illusions. Men made of light and malice and just enough matter to cut. They skitter across cameras, erase themselves, reappear. You smell the emotional weather of the bridge go brittle. Boarding alert. The tactical officer breathes. No, you say, and you envy the calm in your own voice. Misdirection. Watch the flagship's spine. He zooms. On Kresh's proud vessel, amidships, a maintenance maw yawns open. And shut in a rhythm too neat. A shadow crosses it that does not belong to any hull line. The maw freezes half open. Ashamed. For 3 whole heartbeats, the flagship forgets to decide whether it is prey or trap. That's all Sado needs. He fires nothing visible. The flagship shudders as if insulted by a god. Light condenses to a needle point and pushes straight through the keel. Not an explosion, a denial. Where the beam passes, systems stop naming themselves. Gravity remembers other stories. Crew become concepts. The proud prow dips as if bowing to a throne that no longer exists. On the parley camera, the illusion men bloom at last. Too many, too quick, too accurate. A chorus line of assassins choreographed to guilt. You watch the envoy's jaw flex once, acceptance of a role he didn't audition for, before he and his mask brothers go down in lines that would look poetic to a monster. The deck beneath your boots hums like a plucked wire. Cheers try to lift and die ashamed in throats. Kresh's line buckles, not breaks. Buckles. Because Ludo Kresh, stubborn as iron, does something no one on Sato's side planned for. He survives. On your board, his flagship's core bleeds heat in controlled increments. Bulkheads seal in patterns that look like resignation, and are, in fact, strategy. The proud prow rises again. Lights strobe in a language more ancient than parley. I am still here. Finish him, someone says. You don't know if it was you. You don't get the chance. Hyperspace slits above the field, thin, bright, numerous. The galaxy takes ragged breaths as new ships claw their way back into real. Not Kresh's, not Sato's. Other Sith war bands. Systems that pledge to both. Systems that pledge to neither. Warlords who built their little empires along quiet supply routes, arriving late to the feast with knives already wet. You feel the moment the war stops being binary. On your screen, order melts into weather. Sato adapts instantly. Of course he does. He throws decoys like confetti, births phantom flotillas by the dozen, paints his own ships with false scars to earn pity from the very allies he is stabbing. He turns Kresh's stubborn line into a wall by forcing enemies to crash against it. He makes Ludo his shield without asking permission. You watch Kresh understand that too. Pride curdles into duty. He holds. He burns. He bleeds exactly where Sato needs him to bleed. His comms flood the net with righteous threats and concrete instructions, and for the first time tonight, you hear a voice that sounds like a king. I will not die for your theater, Kresh says into every ear that will open to him. I will die for the Empire. Sato smiles in your memory, even if you can't see his face. He always did like when other men said the lines he wrote. Pull us 30 degrees spinward, you order, grabbing back any sliver of geometry you can own. Stack shields, vent plasma forward, make it look like a wound. If they want a cripple to circle, give them one that bites. Your crew moves. They are yours because you earned them yesterday and today, and in the hour where you didn't blink while the deck tried to throw you. The ship groans, then sings in a new key. Enemy fire drapes across your bow and slides off in sheets that shimmer like angry silk. Outside, a cruiser blossoms, petals of hull curling backward, a black flower opening into vacuum. In its reflection you see your face for a second, pale, drawn, older than the last chapter. You remember Ragnos' leash. You feel Sato's whisper curling into your ear in a future where he thinks you will belong to him. The field thins, not calms, never that, thins, like storm bands pulling past each other to reveal a fat black eye. In the quiet at the center, Kresh's flagship burns with the steadiness of a temple lamp. Sato's personal squadron gathers like a pack. The other warbands pace the perimeter, blood-dumb and calculating in equal measure. Signal from Kresh, comm says. Private channel, relayed through 3 loyal ships, and 1 unknown. Open it. Static eats the first words. The rest arrives like stone. Cowards' victories, Kresh snarls. He will spend us until only his myth remains. If I fall, make the falling expensive. You swallow pride, Ash. The urge to tell a man like that what he already knows. Understood. You cut the line because there is no right benediction for a king who finally found the note his reign needed on the night it ends. Sato moves. He collapses the decoys, opens his blades, and flies the knife hand straight at Kresh's heart. No trick now. No mask. Every gun he owns speaks at once. Kresh answers with a hymn of turbolasers and the piety of ramming speed. When the ships meet, the light is white and long and holy. You shield your eyes anyway. A half-beat later, the shockwave hits. The deck kicks. The bulkheads groan. Your heart stutters into a new meter and decides to like it. When vision returns, one shape remains where there were 2. Sato's flagship coasts through debris with the disdain of a predator who doesn't bother to lick blood off its teeth. Kresh is everywhere and nowhere, a new constellation scattered across the dark. In the pit, no one speaks. The quiet is not respect, it is logistics. Every mind on your bridge racing ahead to the next fact. There is nothing left to balance Sato now, except Sato. You say it aloud because someone must. Recall our pickets, fold to fallback. If Sato offers alliance, we accept. You let that sit a beat, then add, and we sharpen. Eyes flick up. Meet yours. understand. Across the void, Sato paints triumph on the night. Beacons blink. Captains kneel over comms, some willingly, some with a clever hand at their throats. The Empire reassembles itself around a center that never intends to hold. You can feel it, the thrill of victory that smells like rot if you breathe too deep. Jump window opening, Nav calls. 3, 2, you take one last look. The battlefield is a graveyard and a blueprint. Serpents, intertwined, have bitten each other long enough that you can't tell which venom will win. The galaxy trembles, yes, but not out of awe, out of anticipation. It has seen this story before and knows the middle is always blood. Mark, you say. Hyperspace takes you. The ship shudders, then swims, then whispers to you in a tone only pilots and prophets understand. In that silver tunnel, you close your eyes and see two faces. Kresh, stubborn and late, and finally right. Sado, elegant and immediate, and headed for an altar he is building for himself. When Real returns, it is colder, quieter. Your fleet, what remains of it, fans into a defensive stitch along a dead moon. Your crew exhales in one rusted chorus. A message already waits. It carries Sado's signature and a smile you can hear. To all loyal elements, consolidate. The age of caution is over. The Republic, away. It's your thumb hovers over acknowledge. You lower your hand. Record, you tell comms. Your voice surprises you. It's steadier than the deck. To Lord Sado, we stand ready. The Empire will be one blade. You cut the channel and let the lie hang like frost between two breaths. Because in the glass of the command rail, you see what Korriban taught you and Ziost branded in your bones. Empires do not simply fall. They begin to fall. Quietly, beautifully, on nights exactly like this, when triumph is loud enough to drown the sound of the first crack. You feel the crack now. You file it. You keep your stance. Outside, wreckage spins slowly, marking the sky with lines only the patient will learn to read. You promise yourself you will be patient, and somewhere far from your moon, in a jungle temple that does not yet know your name, a throne of stone waits for a man who believes he can make illusions into nations. Your ship hums. Your crew watches you with the new eyes a bridge gives to anyone who just ordered survival. The board glows like embers learning how to breathe again. Stand down from red, you say. Not to green, to waiting. They move. The lights change. The smell of hot metal fades into the tired scent of men and women who have learned tonight. Another true thing about themselves. You step to the glass and watch the last of Kresh's light go out. Let him have his war, you whisper. We'll be here for the cost. It begins with nothing. No sound, no pulse, no light. Just the slow ache of centuries exhaling into the void. You drift, weightless, timeless. The galaxy has forgotten you, forgotten them. The Sith Empire is ash now. Its screams buried beneath a silence so vast it almost feels alive. Every breath you take feels borrowed from ghosts. You open your eyes, and the darkness stares back. It isn't empty. It watches. Starlight bleeds through cracks in the void, pale and distant, like the dying embers of a fire that once burned across worlds. You reach out. Dust floats past your fingertips. What was once metal, once stone, once empire. Ships hang like bones of extinct leviathans, their hulls drifting, their names long devoured by time. And in that silence, something whispers. Not words, memories. A flicker. A planet emerges from shadow. Korriban. You descend through a sky the color of rusted blood. The storms here no longer rage. They wait. The sand dunes move like old beasts dreaming in their sleep. The temples still stand, jagged and proud, but empty. Their doors gape open, black mouths swallowing light. The air smells of stone dust and secrets too patient to die. You walk through what remains of the Valley of the Dark Lords. The statues are cracked, their faces erased by wind, yet even broken, they tower, stern, eternal, carved from pride and pain. Lightning flashes across the sky, forking between tombs like veins relapsing into life. Inside one crypt, your steps echo. Each sound is a ripple through centuries. You run your hand across a sarcophagus, cold, silent, smooth. The name has been scoured away, perhaps by time, perhaps by those who feared remembering, and for a moment, you swear you feel a heartbeat beneath the stone. Just one. Then, nothing. Outside, the galaxy has moved on. The Republic rises again. New flags, new codes, same blindness. The Jedi return to their temples, to aching peace, as if the galaxy hasn't already rehearsed its wars. But in the corners between stars, in the space where light grows thin, remnants remain. A holocron, cracked but glowing faintly, spinning in the dark. Its crystal hums when touched, spilling fractured voices into the air. Beware the illusion of victory. Power buried is not power lost. The rule remains. Fragments, pieces of ghosts, the scattered thoughts of an order too stubborn to die. You see them now, survivors, shadows moving between systems, Sith Lords stripped of armies but not of hunger. They no longer rule worlds, they haunt them. A name whispered in secret here, a cult kneeling in blood there, a dagger in the dark, engraved with an ancient sigil that no one living should still recognize. The Sith are gone. The Sith are everywhere. Centuries fold like paper. Empires rise and fall again. Republics, wars, rebuildings, complacencies. History rewrites itself, smoothing the rough edges, painting old monsters into myths. The Jedi become legends of their own making. The Republic tells stories of how darkness was defeated once and for all, and beneath it all, the silence grows heavier. You can feel it. The galaxy aches for the next scream. You wander ruins on Ziost, where frozen palaces still dream beneath layers of ice. The halls there are tombs within tombs, corridors of blue frost where no breath fogs, because no living thing dares to come this far. You light a torch. The flame burns too small. The walls whisper when you pass, speaking in languages older than sound. Your reflection in the ice shifts, not matching your movements. Behind it, something watches, its shape tall, regal, patient. It doesn't move, it doesn't need to, it waits. The dark side has no clock. It knows the galaxy will tire of its peace eventually. It always does. Far beyond the core, in the black belt of forgotten stars, a planet drifts without name. Once, it was a fortress world. Now, it's a graveyard. Its surface is a sea of glass, melted by weapons no one remembers using. You walk across it. Each step sends faint ripples of light underfoot, like the planet still remembers what it was to burn. You kneel, brush aside the glass dust, and find a symbol etched beneath, two blades crossing over a single eye, the mark of the old Sith Order, and next to it, another, smaller, newer, a single circle, bisected by a line, the rule of two, a legacy smoldering under rubble. Even extinction obeys hierarchy. Time bends again. You see them, faces you do not know, yet somehow recognize. New acolytes rising in secret, a master teaching an apprentice in the glow of dying embers. Their words are not loud, they are precise. Patience is power. We do not conquer the galaxy, we let it invite us back. They speak of the old ways not as scripture, but as inheritance. Each one adds to the design. Each one forgets something their master thought vital. The Sith evolve the way rot does, quietly, beneath the floorboards. One becomes two, two become four. Then the knives come out, and the cycle resets. Always two, always waiting. You drift through an age where even myths are forgotten. The Jedi archive labels the old wars as legend. The holocrons of the Sith are lost to dust and decay, at least the ones not hidden behind false walls in the Jedi's own vaults. Korriban's name changes to Moraband, as if a new word can erase memory. Ziost freezes. Dromund Kaas storms itself into madness. You wander through them all. You see entire cities swallowed by sand, their towers jutting from dunes like the ribs of great beasts. You see starships half buried in ice, still flickering with dying power cores that hum lullabies to no one. You see murals of forgotten rulers, fading beneath centuries of wind. And everywhere, the same question lingers in the silence. Was it all worth it? No one answers. At last you reach the edge of known space, a place where even light hesitates to travel. There, floating in the dark, you find a tomb not built by hands. It's carved into an asteroid, its surface etched with veins of red crystal that pulse faintly, like a sleeping heart. You step inside. The corridor is narrow, the air thin, but the silence feels heavier here. Not empty, pressurized. It pushes against your chest, whispering just beyond comprehension, and then you see them. Dozens of coffins hovering in the air, each one translucent, each one holding a figure robed in shadow. Their bodies are ancient, preserved, but their faces, some human, some not, still bear the calm of unfinished ambition. Marka Ragnos, Ajunta Pall, Naga Sado, names that once broke worlds. Now they sleep in glass. You walk between them. Every footstep is a trespass. One of the coffins flickers, a pulse, a heartbeat. You freeze, then another, and another. Each light fades as quickly as it came, but the message is clear. They're not gone, not entirely. The galaxy may have forgotten their names, but the Force remembers. The dark side hums quietly here, deep beneath layers of dust and denial. It's not rage anymore, not fury, something colder, more patient, like a tide waiting for the moon to change. You float once more, back into the void between stars. You've seen empires burn, rebuilt, and vanish into myth. You've heard the echoes of gods reduced to whispers, but even in the stillness you can feel it, the pulse beneath reality. The Sith are not gone. They're breathing in sync with the galaxy's heartbeat, waiting for the next wound to open, waiting for someone to listen again. And as the centuries collapse behind you, the silence fractures. A spark, a thought, a name whisper. And for the first time in 1,000 years, bang, the silence ends, not with a scream, but with a promise. Far beyond the core, in the black belt of forgotten stars, a planet drifts without name. Once, it was a fortress world. Now, it's a graveyard. Its surface is a sea of glass, melted by weapons no one remembers using. You walk across it. Each step sends faint ripples of light underfoot, like the planet still remembers what it was to burn. You kneel, brush aside the glass dust, and find a symbol etched beneath, 2 blades crossing over a single eye, the mark of the old Sith Order. And next to it, another, smaller, newer, a single circle bisected by a line, the rule of 2, a legacy smoldering under rubble. Even extinction obeys hierarchy. Time bends again. You see them, faces you do not know, yet somehow recognize. New acolytes rising in secret, a master teaching an apprentice in the glow of dying embers. Their words are not loud, they are precise. Patience is power. We do not conquer the galaxy, we let it invite us back. They speak of the old ways not as scripture, but as inheritance. Each one adds to the design. Each one forgets something their master thought vital. The Sith evolve the way rot does, quietly, beneath the floorboards. 1 becomes 2, 2 become 4. Then the knives come out, and the cycle resets. Always 2, always waiting. You drift through an age where even myths are forgotten. The Jedi archive labels the old wars as legend. The holocrons of the Sith are lost to dust and decay, at least the ones not hidden behind false walls in the Jedi's own vaults. Korriban's name changes to Moraban, as if a new word can erase memory. Ziost freezes. Dromund Kaas storms itself into madness. You wander through them all. You see entire cities swallowed by sand, their towers jutting from dunes like the ribs of great beasts. You see starships half buried in ice, still flickering with dying power cores that hum lullabies to no one. You see murals of forgotten rulers, fading beneath centuries of wind. And everywhere, the same question lingers in the silence. Was it all worth it? No one answers. At last you reach the edge of known space, a place where even light hesitates to travel. There, floating in the dark, you find a tomb not built by hands. It's carved into an asteroid, its surface etched with veins of red crystal that pulse faintly, like a sleeping heart. You step inside. The corridor is narrow, the air thin, but the silence feels heavier here. Not empty, pressurized. It pushes against your chest, whispering just beyond comprehension. And then you see them. Dozens of coffins hovering in the air, each one translucent, each one holding a figure robed in shadow. Their bodies are ancient, preserved, but their faces, some human, some not, still bear the calm of unfinished ambition. Marka Ragnos, Ajunta Pall, Naga Sado, names that once broke worlds. Now they sleep in glass. You walk between them. Every footstep is a trespass. One of the coffins flickers, a pulse, a heartbeat. You freeze, then another, and another. Each light fades as quickly as it came, but the message is clear. They're not gone, not entirely. The galaxy may have forgotten their names, but the Force remembers. The dark side hums quietly here, deep beneath layers of dust and denial. It's not rage anymore, not fury, something colder, more patient, like a tide waiting for the moon to change. You float once more, back into the void between stars. You've seen empires burn, rebuilt, and vanish into myth. You've heard the echoes of gods reduced to whispers, but even in the stillness you can feel it, the pulse beneath reality. The Sith are not gone. They're breathing in sync with the galaxy's heartbeat. Waiting for the next wound to open, waiting for someone to listen again, and as the centuries collapse behind you, the silence fractures. A spark, a thought, a name whisper, and for the first time in 1,000 years, bang, the silence ends, not with a scream, but with a promise. The first sound is breathing, not yours, measured, steady, deliberate. It comes through static, filtered by the hum of an old hollow recorder still pulsing weakly in the dark. You're standing in a room carved out of starship wreckage, walls slick with condensation, the air thick with the musk of ancient metal and damp circuitry. Lightning outside the viewport flashes blue across fractured armor, painting the chamber in pulses of ghost light. You touch the console, and the hollow record flares. An image, flickering, unstable. A face materializes, half-masked, half-human, eyes sharp, distant, alive with purpose and madness all at once. Revan. The name strikes you before it's spoken, reverberating through your chest like a drumbeat older than your bones. You've heard it before, in whispers traded across the outer rim, in old soldiers' warnings, in the haunted silences of Jedi archives. A savior who became a monster who saved the galaxy. You don't know which version to believe, and neither, it seems, did he. The recording stabilizes, voice deep and calm, a voice that sounds like the Force itself weighing a decision. There was no choice. There was only the war. You see the Mandalorian wars play out in the flickering hologram, the skies of Malachor V burning, fleets tearing themselves apart under the command of a single will too brilliant, too absolute to be anything but dangerous. You can almost smell the ozone and blood, the iron tang of sacrifice cloaked as duty. You can feel the moment Revan's convictions curdle into certainty, the kind that makes gods out of men and ghosts out of everyone else. The Jedi had hesitated, paralyzed by peace. Revan had acted, convinced that salvation demanded cruelty. His mask, black, red, divided down the center, wasn't armor. It was penance. It was focus. It was the line he drew between himself and the galaxy he meant to save, even if it beats. Rokim. The hollow projection flickers again, and suddenly you're there, standing on the bridge of his flagship. The deck hums under your boots, every console alive, every officer silent but alert, their eyes locked on the man at the center. Revan stands with hands clasped behind his back, his cloak rippling in the current of the ship's life support systems, his gaze fixed on the stars beyond the viewport. Beside him, his apprentice, Malak, his voice younger than, loyal, eager, afraid to be forgotten. The Republic will see us as traitors, Malak says. Let them, Revan replies, his tone neither angry nor proud, just inevitable. You can feel the conviction in it, like gravity bending the air around him. When he turns, you see it. Not rage, not hatred, but clarity. Terrifying, cold clarity. If the galaxy must burn to be cleansed, he says, then let it burn. The room fades, and suddenly you're drifting again, through ruins, through time, through the wreckage of a war too vast for memory to hold. You see Revan's crusade unfold, not as history, but as experience. Planets conquered, not for power, but for purpose. Armies rebuilt under banners that no longer cared about light or dark, only victory. The Republic crumbled, the Jedi Order fractured, and in the space between morality and necessity, Revan built something new, something that terrified both sides. You watch him teach, his words echoing through training halls lined with red banners and flickering lightsabers. The Force is not two sides. It is one. We are the ones who divide it. His apprentices listen, enraptured, their faces lit by red glow. You feel it too. The logic, the lure, every syllable cuts like scripture. Every pause dares you to disagree. You understand why they followed him. You almost want to. But behind the brilliance, behind the doctrine, you sense the fracture widening. Revan doesn't preach faith. He calculates it. Every choice is a theorem, every death an equation. The Force bends to his mind like steel under a forge, but something in him resists its warmth. It's too precise, too detached, and somewhere in the distance you can still hear the faint echo of his breathing, steady, measured, human. The war reaches its fever pitch, the Battle of Malachor V, where Revan's genius meets its consequence. You're on the surface now, ash choking the sky, the air trembling with energy. The mass shadow generator hums in the distance, a low mechanical moan that crawls into your teeth. Around you, soldiers scream orders that dissolve into static. Ships crash like meteors. The ground itself writhes, alive with gravitational agony. And at the center, Revan stands, cloak shredded, armor seared, mask cracked along the jaw, watching everything he built consume itself. He doesn't flinch, he doesn't blink, he simply watches as worlds die because he told them to. You feel the Force scream through him, half creation, half destruction, and you realize this is the moment it breaks him. The brilliance becomes guilt, the conviction becomes weight, the hero becomes haunted. Malak's betrayal comes next. A flash, a roar, the betrayal of a man who learned too well from his master's ruthlessness. The explosion swallows light, and Revan falls. Time fractures. The Jedi find him. They erase him. They rewrite him. The Dark Lord becomes a hero again, the destroyer reborn as the savior of the Republic. You see the irony carved through fate like a scar. Revan saves the very order that once feared him, protects the Republic he once despised, and hunts the Sith he once led. But every victory carries an echo. Every time he ignites his saber he hesitates, just enough for memory to whisper, "Whose side are you on now?" You walk through the aftermath of his redemption, though it feels more like a relapse. Planets liberated, temples rebuilt, archives rewritten, but none of it feels right, because Revan is still searching. For what? Even he doesn't know. Forgiveness? Purpose? Or maybe the part of himself that still whispers from the mask buried somewhere in the outer rim. You find it, the mask, half buried in red sand, edges scorched, the visor fractured like a mirror. You reach for it. The wind howls, the sky darkens, and the mask rises from the ground on its own. The air around you warps, thickening until it hums with power. And then, he's there, Revan. Not as flesh or ghost, but as something in between. The Force swirls around him like smoke, his presence sharp and calm and immeasurable. His voice cuts through the air, neither male nor female, neither Jedi nor Sith, the sound of conviction remembering what doubt felt like. "You've come far," he says. But far is only distance, not understanding. You try to speak, but the words die in your throat. He moves closer, and you feel the duality within him, light and dark, braided together, each pulse a contradiction. Savior, destroyer, scholar, warrior. The Force is balance, he says softly. But balance is not peace. It's the blade that cuts both ways. He steps closer until his shadow merges with yours. You see yourself reflected in the shattered visor of his mask, and for an instant you can't tell whose face looks back. You see your victories, your ambitions, your fears, everything that has ever driven you toward power or away from it. The whisper in your mind asks the question you've tried to avoid since the tombs of Korriban. If you had his power, would you have done differently? Revan's hand lifts, hovering inches from your chest. You can feel the Force pressing against your ribs, not to harm, but to measure. "The dark side is not evil," he says. "It is the truth, unrestrained." Then his tone softens. "The light is not good. It is the lie we tell to forgive ourselves." The air vibrates as if the galaxy itself is listening. You want to look away, but the weight of his presence won't allow it. His voice becomes quieter, almost tender, and infinitely more dangerous. "You will choose one day, not between light and dark, but between control and surrender." The mask glows faintly, light bleeding through its cracks. His form begins to unravel, dissolving into a storm of color, blue and red, light and shadow swirling together until the air hums with tension. The mask floats toward you, its reflection shimmering in your eyes. "Keep it," Revan whispers, "not as a symbol, as a reminder." You reach out. The metal is warm, pulsing faintly, like a heartbeat that isn't yours. When your fingers close around it, the world fractures. Images flood your mind, wars yet to come, empires that will rise from the ashes of the Sith, Jedi falling by the thousands, worlds burning under names not yet spoken. And through it all, one constant truth. The line between savior and destroyer is so thin, It can only be seen in hindsight. The vision ends as suddenly as it began. You're back. In the chamber, the hollow record dead. The storm outside fading into stillness. The mask lies in your lap, cold again, silent. You exhale, the sound shaking more than you'd like to admit. In the reflection of the viewport, lightning flashes one last time, and for a fraction of a second you think you see him there. Revan, standing just behind you, his head tilted, the faintest ghost of a smile under the shadow of his mask. He's gone. The silence returns. But it's not the same silence you entered with. It's heavier, denser, waiting. Because you understand now, Darth Revan wasn't a warning. He was a prophecy, a mirror. And as you stare into the storm, clutching the mask that once divided a galaxy, you hear his final whisper linger in your mind. Soft, deliberate, and terrifyingly intimate. The Force doesn't choose sides. People do. The first thing you hear is breathing. Mechanical. Strained, not like the cold precision of Vader's centuries later, but ragged, uneven, human. Then the hum of a lightsaber igniting, red, furious, alive. It slices through the darkness like a scream through silence, and for an instant, the galaxy itself seems to hold its breath. You're standing aboard the command bridge of a warship painted in shadow and fire. The stars outside are distant, indifferent witnesses. Before you stands a man, tall, broad, half his face replaced with polished metal, his eyes burning with something far brighter than the glow of his blade. Darth Malak, the apprentice who once called another master, the friend who once called another brother. The betrayal hangs between you like smoke. You remember the stories, how it happened, how one moment shattered an empire built on brilliance, how the moment Revan fell, the galaxy turned on its axis. You can almost hear it, the thunderous betrayal over the comms. Malak's voice cutting through the void with venom and regret all at once. "Forgive me, my master, but you are too dangerous to live." And then the blinding light of the turbolaser barrage, the explosion that swallowed Revan whole, or so the galaxy believed. You can still see the flames reflected in Malak's eyes, even now, as he stands among the ruins he created. The Republic reels, the Jedi scramble, and the Sith, his Sith, tear themselves apart, trying to decide whether to kneel or strike. You follow him through the corridors of his flagship, his cape dragging across the deck, each footstep echoing like a war drum. Soldiers bow as he passes, eyes down, breath shallow, fear painted on their faces. He does not look at them. He does not need to. Fear is currency now, and he is the richest man in the galaxy. His voice fills the ship, cold and commanding. The Jedi are broken. The Republic is dying, but they will not die fast enough. He turns to you, and for a moment you glimpse what remains of the man he once was. Revan's student, loyal, brilliant, desperate to be worthy. That man is gone. What stands before you now is the echo of that loyalty, twisted by insecurity, forged into arrogance, sharpened into rage. He believes he is the heir to Revan's purpose, but where Revan saw strategy, Malak sees conquest. Where Revan sought control, Malak demands destruction. You see the difference in his eyes, the absence of doubt, the absence of restraint. He raises his hand and gestures toward the star map projected before him. 1,000 systems flicker red, the product of his campaign, a path of fire drawn across the galaxy's heart. His war is not one of precision, but punishment. Entire planets burned, cities turned to ash, voices silenced before they could even ask why. You feel the hum of his rage through the deck plates, the vibration of a mind that no longer understands the concept of enough. When he speaks again, his tone is calm, deliberate, insane. "They will remember me not as a man, but as a force." His mouth curves into something that might once have been a smile, and they will call it fear. You watch as the next order is given. Target. Taris. The command is spoken without hesitation, without ceremony. You know what it means. You can almost hear the screams before they begin. The fleet moves into position, dozens of ships aligning their guns toward a world that never imagined itself important enough to die this way. The gunners don't speak, they don't blink. The countdown begins. Malak watches in silence as the planet's surface erupts in waves of molten fire, oceans turning to vapor, towers collapsing into dust. The sound of billions dying never reaches the ship, but you feel it in your bones, the force itself crying out, raw and endless. Malak closes his eyes and breathes. Yes, in the silence that follows. A lesson, he murmurs, to those who still think themselves beyond my reach. You realize then that he's not teaching anyone but himself. Every death, every ruin, is his prayer to the ghost of Revan, a desperate attempt to prove that he can be more. But he's chasing a shadow, fighting an enemy that no longer exists. You see the cracks forming in his certainty, the twitch of a jaw, the flicker of doubt that he crushes before it can take shape. Power devours him in real time, and you're close enough to smell it, the stench of ozone, of fear, of something burning inside that was once human. Days pass, victories pile up. The Sith Empire swells under Malak's command, a machine of endless consumption. But with each triumph, his paranoia grows. He sees betrayal everywhere, in his officers, his allies, even his apprentices. You watch as one kneels before him in loyalty, only for Malak's blade to ignite and sever the man's head before the sentence can finish. There can be no doubt, he says simply, as if it were an axiom. The corpse smolders at his feet, the smell of charred fabric filling the chamber. You understand then what he's becoming, not a leader, but a storm, a force that consumes without thought, incapable of stopping even itself. The galaxy burns because he needs it to, because the fire is the only thing loud enough to drown out the echo of Revan's name. Yet even as he builds his empire of ash, something stirs in the shadows of space. A rumor, a whisper. Revan lives. You see it unfold across the fleet like a contagion, fear, confusion, hope. Each reaction is deadly in its own way. Malak laughs when he first hears it, a short, sharp sound with no humor. The dead do not return, he says, but the tremor in his voice betrays him. You can feel the doubt gnawing at him, slow and relentless. He begins hunting ghosts, purging officers, executing spies, silencing anyone who speaks the name too loudly. But whispers, like the Force, cannot be killed. They spread, they multiply, until one day they become truth. Revan returns, and with that truth, everything Malak built begins to rot. You see the fear bloom in his eyes when the report comes in, the Jedi strike team that breached his ship, the figure leading them cloaked in shadow, moving with a precision Malak knows too well. The realization hits him like a physical blow. The ghost he tried to bury has come back to collect its debt. He turns to the viewport, watching his fleet scatter, his empire fracture. The stars outside seem to mock him, glittering cold and distant as the past he can't escape. He should have stayed dead, he mutters. And for the first time, you hear something in his voice that isn't rage. It's regret. The battle that follows is chaos. Lightsabers clash like thunder, red and blue colliding in bursts of color that paint the halls of the Star Forge, the monstrous station that birthed his armies. The air hums with power, the Force itself convulsing as if it can no longer decide which master to serve. You follow Malak through the corridors, his breathing ragged, his movements fueled by desperation rather than discipline. He cuts down Jedi like wheat, each death punctuated by a snarl of defiance. But the more he kills, the smaller he seems. The great Darth Malak, conqueror, destroyer, self-proclaimed God, reduced to a man running from the shadow of someone he once called brother. And then, the moment, the confrontation. The throne room glows red with reflected fire from the forge's heart. The heat presses against your skin, the air heavy with the metallic scent of plasma. Revan steps from the smoke, mask restored, blade ignited, presence immense. Malak freezes, caught between awe and fury. The silence stretches, sharp enough to draw blood. Revan, he breathes, the name trembling out of him like confession. You should have stayed my master. Revan's voice is quiet, calm, final. You should have stayed my friend. The duel is brutal. No words, no theatrics. Just two storms colliding, each one desperate to prove they were right. Sparks fill the air, heat sears your lungs, and every clash of their blades feels like history rewriting itself in real time. Malak fights with rage, Revan with regret, and in the end, that's the difference. Consumes. Regret endures. When the killing blow comes, it's silent. Malak falls to his knees, clutching at the wound as if he can still command the universe to obey him. His saber flickers out. The red light fades. His breathing slows. He looks up one last time, and for the briefest moment, the warlord disappears. In his place, you see the student, the young Jedi who once believed in something pure, something better. Was it worth it? He asks, voice barely a whisper. Revan doesn't answer. Malak exhales, the sound hollow and fragile. I hope you find peace, he says. Because I never did. His eyes close. Silence returns. The forge burns on, feeding on itself, a monument to ambition turned inward. You stand there surrounded by the ghosts of an empire, by the smell of molten metal and fading ozone. The galaxy is free again, they'll say. But you know better. Freedom is just a no, their kind of hunger. As the flames rise, you glance one last time at Malak's fallen form, and you swear the shadows still whisper his name, not in fear but in warning. Because empires may die, and masters may fall, but the echo of betrayal never fades. It lingers, it waits. And as you step away, the red light catches your reflection in the molten glass, a reminder that the line between loyalty and treachery is always drawn too thin to see. The smell of ash is everywhere. You taste it in the back of your throat, feel it grind between your teeth when you breathe. The battlefield stretches across the horizon, a graveyard of both pride and flesh. The Jedi are gone. The Sith are gone. What's left is ruin. Smoke coils upward like black scripture against a dying sky. The words of a lesson written in flame. Power without discipline devours itself. You stand among the dead, your armor scorched, your hands trembling from the aftermath of destruction not even the Force can fully quiet. And there, at the heart of it all, among the bodies of his brothers, stands one man, still breathing, Darth Bane. His skin glistens with rain and blood, his eyes cold, bright, and alive with something more dangerous than rage, clarity. He watches the storm crawl across the ruins of the Sith Brotherhood and smiles. It's not joy, it's revelation. The wind cuts around him like it fears his name, like the air itself refuses to defy him. He raises his head to the sky, rain striking his scarred scalp, and you hear him whisper words that will echo through millennia. Only two shall there be, he says softly, almost to himself. No more, no less. You feel the world tighten around that sentence, as if the Force itself recognizes a new law. 2. The simplicity of it burns brighter than all the temples that once worshipped power and chaos. You step closer, boots squelching through mud and bone. Bane turns his head, not surprised by your presence. His voice is quiet but carries like thunder through the ruin. They thought power was meant to be shared, he says. They mistook greed for strength. His gaze drifts to the corpses of a dozen fallen lords, men and women who once ruled fleets, worlds, destinies. Now they feed the lesson. Lightning flashes, carving his silhouette into a god of ruin. The Brotherhood is gone, not because the Jedi destroyed Is, but because Bane did. He had watched them betray each other, watched their hunger turn inward until they became more obsessed with titles than purpose. And so he gave them what they wanted: annihilation, poison, manipulation, deception. Every weapon the Sith had ever used against the galaxy, he turned inward, purging his own kind until only he remained, the last Sith, the first true one. You follow him through the wreckage of the final battle, through trenches filled with twisted metal and broken armor. The air hums faintly with energy still trapped in the atmosphere, the leftover pulse of lightning summoned by Sith who died screaming. Bane walks as if he's walking through memory, his expression unmoved by the carnage. You see it in his eyes. This isn't victory, this is surgery. He has cut the cancer from the Sith, leaving only the scar. When he finally stops, it's before a fallen banner half buried in mud, the crest of the old Brotherhood, a symbol of countless lords vying for dominance, a circle that devoured itself. Bane rips it free and drops it into the fire. An order of fools, he says. Too many mouths feeding on one carcass. No wonder we rotted. He looks at you now, and for the first time you feel it, the weight of his mind pressing against yours, testing, measuring. Do you understand why they failed? He asks. You hesitate. Because they were weak? His lips curl into a faint grin. No, because they mistook numbers for power. Power is not a democracy. He takes a slow step toward you. It's a blade. He draws his saber, not to strike but to demonstrate, and ignites it. The crimson glow reflects in the rain. And a blade, he says, is only sharp when it has an edge. His eyes burn through the mist, through your hesitation, through everything you thought you knew about the dark side. The Sith must have an edge. The saber hisses out, plunging the scene into shadow again. You hear the rain and thunder, but behind it there's something else. The Force, rippling, reshaping itself around this new law he's building from ashes. He begins to walk again, and you follow, because you can't do anything else. His conviction is gravity. His voice is scripture. The Jedi will rebuild, he says. They always do, but we will rebuild smarter, stronger. The Sith will not scatter again. They will not devour themselves again. From this moment on, we become patient. He stops at the edge of the battlefield, where molten rivers glow faintly beneath the storm. The earth itself cracked open from too much hate. Patience, he repeats, almost as if the word itself tastes foreign. Something my brothers never learned. The scene shifts. Days pass. Storms fade. You find yourself deep underground now, following Bane into an ancient temple carved into the rock of Lihan, or perhaps Ambria. You can't tell. Time and place blur here. It's not a temple anymore. It's a tomb and a cradle. Inside, the air is thick with the musk of old stone and darker things. Knowledge left to rot, secrets waiting to be reborn. Holocrons float above pedestals, flickering faintly with Sith runes that light the room like coals. Bane walks among them, his fingers trailing along one before he crushes it in his hand. They built these to glorify themselves, he says, to preserve their vanity. The shards fall like dying stars. I will build something else, something that endures. You can feel the Force curling around him as he speaks, bending toward his will. The holocrons left intact begin to hum, their fragments orbiting his hand like satellites. You see the idea forming, not of conquest, not of armies, but of legacy. The Sith will no longer seek to rule openly, he says. We will rule from shadow. We will infect the galaxy, not conquer it. The Jedi will fight wars they can't see, against enemies they can't name. He turns to face you, and you realize this is not madness, it's vision. We will become myth, the hidden wound in the galaxy's heart. His tone hardens, becoming something ceremonial. And there will be two, he raises two fingers. A master to embody power, he lowers one, and an apprentice to crave it. The words hit you like thunder. The rule of two, the foundation of 1,000 years of secrecy, treachery, and survival. You feel it in your bones, the dark logic of it, the elegance. It's not chaos, it's evolution. Each generation will grow stronger than the last, Bane says, pacing before you. One will teach, one will challenge, one will kill. The dark side will sharpen itself on the wheel of ambition. He stops. And when the time is right, we will emerge from the shadows, and the galaxy will never even realize it's already ours. His face softens just slightly, but I will not see that day. He glances at the storm beyond the cave. No Sith should. Lightning flashes again, illuminating the rain through the cracks in the stone ceiling. The dark side isn't a storm that destroys, it's a seed that waits for the right soil. He looks at you now, closer than ever. Do you understand what patience costs? His voice drops to a whisper. Everything. The silence that follows feels heavy enough to bend time. You see now what Bane truly is, not just a warlord or philosopher, but a paradox. The destroyer who became an architect, the killer who learned restraint. He kneels, not to worship, but to listen, to the pulse of the Force itself reverberating through the stone. The Jedi will think us extinct, he murmurs, and that will be our greatest weapon. He rises again, his shadow stretching impossibly long behind him. The galaxy forgets faster than it forgives. Let them forget us. He extends a hand, and in the palm rests a new holocron, a smooth black pyramid, edges glowing faintly red. Let them forget, he says again, but we will remember. His eyes narrow, the faintest glimmer of something like pride, twisted, pure, dangerous. And one day, when they are soft and content, we will return to remind them what fear feels like. You realize the holocron isn't just for him, it's for you, for every apprentice that will come after, every whisper that will crawl through the centuries until one day it becomes Palpatine's smile, Vader's breath, Sidious's throne. This is the moment the future was written. You take the holocron, it hums in your palm. vibrating with the pulse of 1,000 unborn nightmares. What happens now? You ask quietly. Bane smiles faintly. Now? He gestures toward the world outside, the wreckage, the silence, the waiting stars. Now the galaxy heals. He turns, his cloak swirling behind him as he walks deeper into the darkness. And while it heals, we learn where to cut. The rain outside stops. The wind dies. The silence is complete. You look down at the holocron in your hand, its light pulsing like a heartbeat. The future beats inside it. The rule of two, the mask of deception that will cover a millennium of domination disguised as peace. You feel the dark side hum in agreement, patient, cold, eternal. Somewhere far above, the galaxy begins to forget the name Sith, and beneath its quiet surface, in a cave of shadows, you whisper it once more, just to keep it alive. The storm outside howls like something alive. Each flash of lightning claws through the blackened windows of the tomb, lighting the ancient walls with brief, violent brilliance. The air tastes of metal and age, heavy with the scent of wet stone and something sharper, burned ozone, the residue of power. You kneel in the center of the chamber, drenched in sweat, the chill of the flagstones seeping through your robes. Before you stand your master, Darth Zana. Her presence fills the space like a quiet infection, calm yet venomous. She is younger than you imagined, her movements deliberate, her voice soft enough to make you lean forward to hear, as if knowledge itself demands submission. The Force is not a current, she says, pacing in slow circles around you. It's a chain. You can feel it already, tightening. Every link, she continues, is forged in pain, shaped in understanding. To master it, you must learn to break each one. She stops behind you, and though you can't see her, you can feel her gaze on the back of your skull. And then, she whispers, you will learn to make others wear those same chains willingly. Her hand extends past your shoulder, lightning blooms from her fingertips, not the crude bolts of battle but threads of light, thin, intricate, beautiful. They weave through the air before striking the stone in front of you. Symbols flare, ancient Sith runes glowing red and gold, dancing with liquid fire before sinking into the floor like ink absorbed by parchment. Read, she commands. You try. The symbols twist as your eyes trace them, shifting shape like living things. You feel them claw at your mind, pulling at the soft edges of thought. Your vision flickers. The tomb grows larger, deeper, impossibly vast. And then you hear them, the whispers, at first faint, then swelling into a choir of voices too layered to belong to any single species. Secrets, Poe, are into you. Rituals, histories, curses. And for every truth you grasp, 3 more slither away, laughing in languages older than the galaxy. You gasp, clutching your head. Zana's hand closes around your jaw, forcing your gaze back toward the glowing sigils. You wanted knowledge, she says, her voice calm, almost tender. Now earn it. You feel your will pressed like metal under a hammer. The runes burn hotter, their light cutting through your eyelids. The whispers crawl through your ears and under your skin until thought itself feels foreign. You taste blood. You don't remember biting your tongue. Zana lets go, and the world slams back into focus. You fall forward, coughing, your breath fogging the cold air. Good, she says simply. You survive the first word. The first word. You realize the inscriptions covering the floor stretch far beyond this chamber, winding through corridors that disappear into darkness. There are thousands, perhaps millions of them, a labyrinth of meaning carved by hands long dead. Zana watches you struggle to rise, amusement curling her lips. Power is not learned, she says. It's survived. Her eyes gleam with cruel satisfaction. Every spell, every secret you steal from the dark side will demand a piece of you. Knowledge has appetite. She steps closer, her shadow falling over you. But the Sith, she leans down, her whisper colder than the storm outside. We feed it willingly. The lightning flashes again, and for a heartbeat you see her differently, her form flickering, haloed by phantom shapes, echoes of other beings that writhe just beneath her skin. They vanish as quickly as they appear, leaving her calm and unbothered. You realize then that your master is more than human. She's a vessel, a conduit through which the dark side breathes and hungers, and she means for you to become the same. The training begins in earnest. Days blue, or into weeks, weeks into something unmeasured. Time means nothing in the tombs of Ambria. Sleep comes rarely, and when it does, it brings visions, fields of bones whispering your name, rivers of shadow coiling around stars. You wake each time with your heart pounding and your head full of new knowledge you can't remember learning. Zana teaches you how to weave illusions from pain, how to turn thought into weapon. She calls it sorcery, though it feels like madness. The Jedi speak of the Force as harmony, she says one evening, her back to you as she draws lines of energy in the air. But harmony is a lie. The dark side doesn't sing, it screams. Her hand cuts through the air, and the illusion she conjures takes shape. You see a Jedi Knight, bound and trembling, pleading for mercy that will not come. Zana doesn't kill him. She makes him believe he's dying. His screams echo, though his body never moves. Feel it, the reality bending, his mind breaking under the weight of fear. Control the mind, she says, turning to you, and you control the galaxy. She gestures for you to try. You close your eyes. The Force swirls, thick and heavy, resisting your touch. You reach deeper, past fear, past morality, until you feel something raw, sensation stripped of meaning. It whispers promises in every voice you've ever known, even your own. When you speak, your words come out as a hiss. See me. The illusion takes form, imperfect, trembling but alive. A man from your past, someone you hated, now kneeling before you in terror. The rush is intoxicating. The power fills you, electric, euphoric. And then Zana's hand snaps out. Pain erupts through your skull as the illusion collapses, your concentration shattering like glass. Do you feel it? She asks. You nod, gasping. That was the dark side feeding on you. You let it drink too freely. She crouches, her gaze level with yours. You must sip from the poison, not drown in it. Her tone softens, almost like a mother. Say, but it's a beautiful death, isn't it? You hate that she's right. The days that follow are worse. She takes you deeper into the catacombs, rooms where ancient Sith Lords once studied, their bones now fused with the walls. Runes pulse faintly, fueled by the lingering essence of their masters. Zana forces you to meditate there, surrounded by whispers that never stop. At first, they taunt you, then they teach you. You learn of rituals that bend space, curses that can unmake the mind, spells that twist the Force into impossible shapes. But the cost is steep. Each lesson leaves you weaker, your thoughts tangled, your emotions bleeding into the tomb's collective memory. You begin to hear your own voice among the whispers, saying things you don't remember thinking. Sometimes you see shadows moving that aren't yours. Sometimes you wonder if you've already died. Zana watches from the darkness, silent, always observing. You begin to understand her game. She isn't just teaching you sorcery, she's testing your identity, seeing if you can hold on to yourself while touching the void. One night, she stands before you, a faint smile cutting through the candlelight. Tell me, she says, what is the purpose of knowledge? You hesitate. Every answer feels wrong. To understand, to control, to survive? She shakes her head each time. Finally, she steps closer until you can smell the faint metallic tang of ozone that clings to her skin. The purpose of knowledge, she says softly, is ownership. You must own what others fear to know. That is how you rule. Her hand touches your temple. Images flood your mind. Worlds bending under Sith will. Civilizations falling not by blade, but by belief. Knowledge is the invisible chain, she whispers, and once you forge it, no one will even know they're bound. Her eyes search yours, measuring. Do you understand now why the rule of two must endure? Because the galaxy is not conquered by armies, it's conquered by ideas. Her words linger long after she leaves the chamber. You find yourself pacing in the silence, replaying every lesson, every scream, every whisper. The knowledge burns inside you now. Too vast to contain, too dangerous to share. You feel it gnawing at your sanity, and that's when it happens. The first time you hear her voice when she's nowhere near. A whisper, faint but unmistakable. You're ready. You turn, but there's no one there. Only shadows, only the storm pressing against the temple walls. But when you close your eyes, you see her standing in the dark, her eyes glowing faintly, her voice inside your head. To learn is to be chained, she says. To teach is to be free. And then you realize, she's preparing you for what comes next, the Sith way, the final test, to kill your master. You wake the next morning with the decision already made. She's waiting for you in the main chamber, her expression unreadable, her hands clasped behind her back. "So," she says, "what will you do with all I've given you?" You draw your saber, but you don't ignite it. Instead, you whisper the first of the runes she forced into your mind. The tomb trembles. Shadows rise from the walls, forming chains of light and smoke that twist toward her. She doesn't move, doesn't resist, just smiles. "Good," she murmurs, as the chains close around her. "Now you understand." Lightning cracks through the ceiling, tearing through the chamber in a cascade of raw energy. For a moment, you can't tell if you're killing her, or if she's letting you. The power burns, the light blinds, and all you hear are the whispers of knowledge screaming through your mind. When the storm fades, the tomb is silent again. The air hums with residual energy. Xana is gone, or perhaps she's everywhere now. Her essence fused into the very stone. You fall to your knees, trembling, your mind a labyrinth of voices and power you can barely control. The knowledge is yours now. The chains are yours. But you know the truth. Every link you forge, every spell you master, every secret you claim will weigh you down until someone stronger decides to break you. You look into the reflection of your lightsaber blade as it hums to life, red and steady. Behind your eyes, her voice lingers like a curse. "You are not free. You are the chain itself." The wind whispers through the ruins of time, cold, thin. It carries no scent of battle now, only dust, secrecy, and the faint hum of a galaxy that believes it's at peace. You stand in the shadows of an old temple, one of many lost to history, where cracks in the ceiling let in thin ribbons of starlight that fall like blades. The air is heavy with stillness, but beneath that stillness, something breathes, something alive. Centuries have passed since Darth Bane's creed reshaped the Sith from chaos into order, from armies into whispers. The Republic has rebuilt, the Jedi have flourished, and the galaxy has begun to forget. But not you. Not the Sith. You've learned that survival is the purest form of power. You've become silence given form. Every step you take is calculated. Every breath is a deception. And as you move through the cold corridors of this forgotten world, you feel the pulse of generations humming beneath your boots, 1,000 years of patience beating like a second heart. The rule of two has endured, hidden in bloodlines, masks and names erased from record. There is always a master, always an apprentice, and you are both the spy and the secret. Outside, lightning splits the night, but it's not natural. It's born from engines, sleek and quiet, slipping through the upper atmosphere. You watch from the shadows as the ship lands in the valley below, its red lights scanning the ruins. From within emerges a figure cloaked in deep crimson, moving with the kind of grace that only comes from centuries of knowledge passed hand to hand. The current master. She walks with no guards, no entourage, no insignia. To the galaxy, she does not exist. To you, she is everything. Her voice carries through the rain, soft yet sharp enough to cut. "Report." You step forward, your boots crunching on gravel that hasn't been touched by life in decades. "The Jedi Council debates peace," you say. "While their knights chase pirates in the Outer Rim, they have forgotten vigilance." She nods, her expression unreadable. "And the Senate? Fat, comfortable, corrupt. They argue over taxation while entire sectors rot." Her lips curve into something that might be a smile, or maybe the ghost of one. "Good. Let them sleep." The wind picks up, carrying her words into the storm. "Our war is not fought with blades anymore," she says. "It is fought with complacency. We make them believe they have won." You know this truth as scripture. The rule of two isn't merely survival, it's evolution. The Jedi think the Sith extinct, a cautionary tale told to Padawans before bedtime. Yet here you stand, their myth made flesh, watching from the shadows as they decay under the weight of their own peace. It is beautiful and horrifying. The master turns toward you, her eyes burning like twin embers beneath the hood. "Knowledge," she says, "is the only weapon worth keeping sharp." She gestures toward the ruins around you. "Our ancestors built empires of fire and fear, but they failed because they wanted to rule the galaxy." She leans closer. "We will own it instead." Her words hang in the air, coiling around your thoughts like smoke. You realize the truth of her plan. The Sith no longer conquer worlds. They conquer minds. Influence, corruption, Politics. Slowly, invisibly. We are not generals, she says. We are whispers. We are gravity. We are the unseen weight that makes stars collapse. The scene shifts. Time folds. The centuries flow like ink through water. You are no longer on that desolate world. You are standing in a Senate chamber, cloaked and unseen, watching politicians argue over trade routes, unaware that every choice they make serves a purpose older than their lineages. Your master's teachings echo in your mind as you plant the smallest seed of suggestion into a governor's aide, an idea that will ripple upward, subtly, invisibly, until it reaches the highest tiers of power. The Jedi sense unrest, but cannot trace its source. You smile, because there is no source, only influence disguised as coincidence. The Sith have become the galaxy's ghostwriters, scripting history one decision at a time. You return to your master, who waits in another hidden fortress, this one buried beneath the sands of Korriban. She stands before an ancient mural of Darth Bane himself, the founder of your creed. Do you understand what he built? She asks. You nod. He made us immortal. Her gaze shifts, and for the first time, you see the faint shimmer of fatigue behind her confidence. Immortal, she repeats, almost whispering it to herself. Yes, but not invincible. She gestures to the mural, where the red eyes of Bane's carving seem to follow you. The rule of two is perfection in theory, she says, but its flaw is the heart. The apprentice must always desire more, and the master must always expect betrayal. The chain never ends. Her words feel heavy, prophetic. You know your time will come, the day when you will test her, when your blade will decide whether her teachings live or die. That is the law, that is the promise. But not yet, not while there's still so much to learn. Years pass again. You move through the Republic's veins like a toxin without antidote. You learn the art of subtlety, how to turn wars without firing a shot, how to make enemies destroy each other with words. You infiltrate the Jedi archives under false name, reading what they believe are forgotten Sith texts. Texts that your master allowed to be discovered. Every deception is deliberate. Every truth they learn is one you have chosen to give them. They think they're erasing darkness flaws. History, but all they're doing is preserving it. You watch them, their white robes gleaming in torchlight, their temples filled with laughter and peace. They believe they've ended evil. They do not see the cracks forming beneath their feet. You can feel it, an imbalance growing, slow but sure, like a tide rising under moonlight. The Force itself shifts, restless, waiting for something it cannot name. In the solitude of your chamber, surrounded by relics older than recorded time, you meditate. The Force moves through you like liquid shadow. You see visions, temples collapsing, cities burning, stars dying, and from the ashes, new names rising, names you don't yet understand. Sidious, Maul, Vader. They are still centuries away, but you can feel them already. The inevitability of their hunger, the inheritance of your master's creed. The dark side shows you not the future, but the pattern. Every era births its own Sith, every cycle tightening the noose around the galaxy's throat. The Jedi may call it balance. You know it as design. Then one night, deep in meditation, you hear the voice. Not your master's. Older, rougher, Bane. His presence fills the room like a storm made of thought. His words crawl through your skull like serpents. The weak forget, he says. The strong remember. You bow your head, trembling. I remember, you whisper. The air trembles. His laughter is distant thunder. Then you know your duty. You do. The chain must continue. It always must. When dawn comes, you rise and walk the corridors to your master's sanctum. She stands before the same mural again, its ancient eyes glowing faintly in the half-light. You've grown powerful, she says, not turning. Her voice is calm, but there's something underneath, awareness. She's known this day would come. They always do. I have learned all you've taught me, you reply. And what I could not learn from you, I've stolen from the Force itself. Her lips twitch into a faint, almost proud smile. Then you know what must happen next. You ignite your saber. Its red glow paints the walls in moving fire. She turns at last, her own blade flaring to life, humming low, steady, almost sad. Do it quickly, she says. But nothing in the dark side is quick. The duel is silent except for the clash of light and the hiss of breath between strikes. She moves like thought. Fast, fluid, predictive. You counter with desperation disguised as calm. Every strike, every block, every feint feels less like combat and more like conversation. The language of the Sith. The Force swells, then screams. Lightning dances across the mural, shattering the carved face of Bane as sparks rain down around you. When it ends, you are standing alone, your master's body crumpled at your feet, her saber extinguished beside her hand. Stare down, breath ragged, heart steady. The chamber is still. The torchlight flickers. The air smells of ozone and iron. Only two, you whisper. You extinguish your blade. No more, no less. You leave the temple as dawn breaks over the desert. The twin suns cast long shadows across the dunes, and in the distance, you see the spires of a Jedi temple rising against the horizon, a symbol of light that has no idea it's already surrounded by darkness. You smile. Not in triumph, but in understanding. The hidden war will never end, because the Jedi will never see it coming, not until it's too late. You look up at the sky, its blue fading into black, and for a moment you imagine you can see the future burning faintly among the stars. The rise of empires, the fall of heroes, the endless cycle of master and apprentice turning like gears in a machine too vast for time to stop. The wind whispers again through the ruins behind you, carrying the faint echo of your master's last words. Let them sleep. You pull your hood over your head and vanish into the sand, another ghost in a galaxy that still believes it's awake. The chain remains unbroken. The serpent still coils. The dark side still waits. The chamber is silent, so silent you can hear your own pulse in your ears, a slow, steady rhythm echoing beneath the low hum of unseen machines. The air is thick, metallic, heavy with the faint smell of antiseptic and ozone. You kneel on the cold, polished floor, the surface so clean it reflects the faint glimmer of red and blue lights that pulse from the walls like a heartbeat. This place isn't a temple or a fortress, it's a laboratory, and the man before you isn't a warlord or conqueror. He is something far worse. Darth Plagueis the Wise. His figure is long and lean, cloaked in simple black robes that hide the truth of his power. His face, pale and stretched, bears none of the rage or scars of the Sith you've known before. His expression is calm, too calm. His golden eyes flicker toward you, unreadable, and when he speaks, his voice doesn't thunder or hiss. It whispers, controlled, surgical. Tell me, he says, what is life? You hesitate. Of all the questions to begin a lesson, this feels like a trap. It's the Force, you answer carefully. He tilts his head, the faintest trace of amusement flickering across his face. No, he says softly. The Force creates life, but life itself is chaos pretending to be order. He takes a slow step toward you. You can hear the faint click of his boots against the floor, each step deliberate, rhythmic, predatory. Life decays, he continues. Cells die, flesh fails, and the Jedi, his lip curls almost imperceptibly, accept this as balance. His hand rises, long fingers tracing invisible lines in the air. But the Sith, he pauses, his eyes narrowing. We do not accept, we correct. You feel a tremor through the floor, a deep vibration, subtle yet impossible to ignore. Around the chamber, containment pods hum to life, their contents hidden behind frosted glass, the faint silhouettes of forms inside, some humanoid, others, less so, shift and twitch. I study life, Plagueis says, his voice now soft and almost reverent, not through faith or meditation, but through mastery, through understanding. The Jedi seek harmony, I seek control. You dare to lift your gaze. Control of what? His eyes flash gold, burning brighter now. Everything. He gestures toward the nearest pod, and the glass clears. Inside lies a corpse, or rather, what should be a corpse. Pale flesh stitched with scars, tubes feed into its veins, and as you watch, its chest rises, shallow but unmistakable. It breathes. Impossible, you whisper. Plagueis turns to you, his expression unreadable. Nothing is impossible to those who listen. He steps closer, until he's towering over you. Do you hear it? You shake your head, heart pounding. He presses a finger to your temple. The world tilts. The hum of machines fades, replaced by something deeper. The sound of countless heartbeats. Millions, maybe billions, all pulsing in rhythm. The Force feels alive, electric, tangible. It swirls through you like liquid fire. Midichlorians, Plagueis whispers, the architects of existence, the true bridge between life and the Force. You can feel them now, tiny, invisible, yet endless. They whisper back, in voices too small for the ear, but too powerful for the mind. They obey those who understand them, he says, and I understand them better than any being alive. His hand withdraws. You gasp, suddenly aware of the silence again, the sterile air pressing down on you like a weight. For a long moment he says nothing, merely watches you. The faint hum of his laboratory fills the void. Somewhere in the distance, a machine exhales a plume of steam. You realize you're still shaking. You fear me, he says quietly. Good. Fear sharpens the mind. But remember, fear is not power. Knowledge is. He turns away, walking toward a wide viewport that looks out into the endless night of space. The curve of a distant planet glows beneath the starlight. The Jedi hoard knowledge, then blind themselves with morality, he says. The Sith destroy knowledge to protect their secrets. I do neither. I refine it. His hand brushes over a control panel, and a faint, translucent figure appears in the air, a hologram of a humanoid shape. Immortality, he says, almost to himself. Not through myth, not through superstition, through will. You step closer, drawn despite yourself. You mean to live forever? Plagueis's reflection in the glass smiles. No, he says. I mean to conquer death. There's a madness in his calm, a brilliance that terrifies you more than rage ever could. You've seen Sith kill with sabers, lightning, hatred, but Plagueis kills with thought. You realize that to him, life and death are equations, and every being is just a variable to manipulate. You can feel his mind brushing against yours, cold and analytical. You think death gives meaning, he murmurs, but death is waste, nature's error. Even the Force cannot explain why it exists. So I will. His eyes shift toward you, and for the first time, you see something almost human flicker in their depths. Exhaustion. Do you know how many centuries we have lost to weakness? He asks. Every Sith chasing thrones, every Jedi chasing light. All fools, bleeding their strength into oblivion. His voice hardens. The galaxy does not need balance. It needs dominion. He turns abruptly, his robes swirling like shadows around him. Come, he commands. You follow him into a darker corridor, where the hum of machines deepens into something almost alive. The walls here pulse faintly, lined with veins of red energy running like arteries through the structure. This is the spine of my work, Plagueis says, motioning toward a sealed door at the end of the passage. Inside lies the future of the Sith, of life itself. He places his hand on the scanner. The door hisses open, the seesaws. Smell hits you first, sterile yet faintly sweet, like overripe fruit. The room is circular, vast, filled with tanks of liquid light. Within them drift forms that flicker between human and not, creations half finished, experiments half alive. You can feel their presence in the Force, faint and flickering, like dying stars refusing to go out. They are not abominations, Plagueis says softly, sensing your revulsion. They are steps. He gestures toward one of the tanks. Steps toward perfection. The Jedi call it unnatural. I call it progress. His voice drops to a whisper. The ability to manipulate midichlorians to prevent death, to create life. Your breath catches. You remember the ancient stories, the forbidden myths of Sith Lords who could twist the Force itself to birth creation. You've done it, you say. You've become a god. Plagueis chuckles, the sound dry and humorless. No, he says, eyes glinting. Even gods die. He walks slowly past the tanks, his reflection trailing him like a ghost. But a mind that transcends the flesh, that cannot die. He stops and turns to face you. Do you understand now what I seek? You do, but the understanding terrifies you. He doesn't want to rule the galaxy. He wants to replace it. He sees existence as flawed code waiting to be rewritten, the Force itself as an instrument to dissect, not worship. And in his vision you realize, there is no room for love, no room for mercy, only logic, cold, endless, perfect. He moves toward you, his hands clasped behind his back. You think me mad, he says. You open your mouth to deny it, but his gaze stops you. Good, he whispers. Madness is the price of enlightenment. His tone softens again, dangerously persuasive. I will teach you what no Sith before you has dared to know. I will show you the true face of the Force. He steps closer, lowering his voice. But first, you must abandon faith. He raises his hand and places it on your chest. The force surges through you like an electric flood beneath the starlight. You scream as every cell in your body ignites, every nerve a conduit for something vast and terrible. You feel your life draining, not in death, but in revelation, like your essence is being rewritten. When it ends, you collapse, trembling, gasping for air. Plagueis crouches beside you. Now, he says, his voice almost gentle, you understand the first law of immortality. To live forever, you must first learn how to die. You look up at him, vision blurred, heart still hammering. He stands over you, tall and composed, eyes glowing faintly gold. You can feel his satisfaction. You have survived what few could. But beneath that satisfaction, you sense something else. A shadow he doesn't see. Another presence. Another plan. Somewhere beyond this laboratory, the next apprentice is already waiting. One who will listen to Plagueis's every word, learn his every secret, and then, when the time comes, strike him down in his sleep. Plagueis turns away, unaware of the destiny creeping toward him. Remember what you have seen tonight, he says. Remember that gods are made, not born. You rise, your body weak, your mind aflame with new knowledge that feels more curse than gift. The machines hum louder, almost mournfully. The creatures in the tanks twitch, restless. You glance at them one last time before following your master out into the corridor. The door seals shut behind you with a hiss, and the lights dim. You walk beside him in silence. His pace is unhurried, confident, as though time itself waits for his command. Do you fear death? He asks suddenly. You hesitate, then whisper, not anymore. His lips curl into a faint smile. Good, he murmurs, because it's already following us. You don't understand what he means. Not yet, but someday, when another Sith apprentice sits beside his master, listening to the same promises of immortality, you will. Someday, when Plagueis closes his eyes for the last time, believing himself a god, you'll remember this night. The hum of machines, the cold of the floor, the whisper that even gods die. And you'll understand what he could not, that the dark side gives life only to those willing to take it. The sound of applause is deafening. It rises like thunder through the golden dome of the Galactic Senate, echoing across tiers of floating pods and polished marble. Thousands of senators stand beneath the blinding light of democracy, their cheers washing over the chamber in a wave of hope, belief, and ignorance. The air smells of perfume, metal, and lies. You stand among them, your eyes fixed on the figure at the center, the man draped in deep crimson robes, his face serene, his voice soft, warm, persuasive. Chancellor Palpatine. His smile is practiced perfection, a portrait of compassion carved by decades of deception. Yet even from this distance you see it, the faint glint in his eyes. Red, not bright, not glowing, just a flicker, a hint, like a spark buried under ash. It's there and gone again before the others notice. They're too busy clapping, too busy celebrating the savior of the Republic. You know better. You can feel it, something colder beneath the applause. The Force shivers, not in fear, but in recognition. You've seen darkness before, in tombs and battlefields and broken men. But this is different. This darkness is quiet, patient, smiling. It doesn't strike, it invites. Palpatine raises a hand, the gesture humble, disarming. The room falls silent almost instantly. My friends, he begins, his voice smooth as oil. This is not a victory for me. It is a victory for us. The words land like honey, sweet and sticky, clinging to every ear. Together, he continues, we have restored order to the galaxy. The senators nod, tears shining in some of their eyes. You can almost hear their thoughts. Finally, peace. But beneath that peace, you hear something else. The faintest hum. The Force trembles, almost whispering to you, he is the storm pretending to be calm. When he finishes, the applause returns, louder this time, and the senators' pods begin to drift back into two. He shadows above. Palpatine steps down from his platform, his robe sweeping behind him like a living shadow. He moves through corridors lined with guards and aides, each bowing their heads in reverence. He smiles at them all, the perfect statesman, the embodiment of Republic virtue. And yet, as he passes, the air chills. The light seems to dim around him. You follow quietly, unnoticed. The hum of the Senate fades into silence, replaced by the echo of his footsteps. He doesn't look back, but somehow you know he's aware of you. His voice cuts through the air like silk. Tell me, he says without turning, do you approve of my performance? You freeze. He shouldn't know you're here. You haven't made a sound. Show yourself, he says softly. I dislike ghosts. You step forward from the shadows, your heart pounding. His smile doesn't fade. If anything, it sharpens. Ah, he says, a student of history. His gaze is calm, but you can feel it probing, dissecting. You wanted to see what the galaxy calls a savior, didn't you? He takes a slow step closer, but you see something else. His eyes narrow, and the mask slips, just slightly. For an instant, his expression twists, revealing the truth beneath the flesh, something ancient, predatory, terrifying. Then it's gone, replaced by warmth once more. You feel it, he whispers, the current shifting, the great wheel turning. He looks up at the ceiling, where banners of the Republic hang like trophies. For 1,000 years, the Jedi believed they ruled through light. They never realized that light is just another shadow waiting for a stronger flame. You follow him as he walks deeper into the private corridors beneath the Senate, where the walls change from gold to gray, and the air grows colder, quieter, emptier. His steps echo like drum beats. The Jedi sit in their temples, he says, preaching peace while sending children to die for it. Hypocrites, puppets who mistake obedience for wisdom. He stops before a set of ornate doors and presses his hand to the sensor. The metal slides open, revealing a chamber unlike any in the Republic, a room of black stone and blood-red light. The walls hum faintly, lined with Sith runes etched so deep they seem to bleed energy. At the center stands a single chair, surrounded by holographic maps of the galaxy. Star systems blink in and out of existence. Trade routes, fleets, armies, all orbit one point. Coruscant, his empire, still unborn but already inevitable. They think me a politician, he says, moving toward the chair, but I am their future. He sits, his hands steepled beneath his chin. Do you know what true power is? He asks. You remain silent. His smile widens. Influence. He gestures to the holograms. A lightsaber cuts only what stands before it. Influence cuts everything. His voice drops lower. A senator votes because I make him believe it's his idea. A Jedi doubts his counsel because I whisper that doubt into his dreams. The Force bends to will, but people bend to fear. He leans back. The Jedi hunt for shadows, never realizing the shadow has already become the light. You feel a cold sweat forming at the back of your neck. Every word he speaks is truth wrapped in poison, logic dipped in madness. The Republic is fragile, you say carefully. If you push too hard. He laughs. It's not a pleasant sound. Push? His eyes glint again, red, bright, alive. No, I guide. He stands, walking slowly toward you, hands clasped behind his back. A nudge here, a whisper there. Fear is a melody, my young observer, and I am its composer. His gaze drifts toward the floor, and you realize he's not talking to you anymore. He's talking to himself, to history, to destiny. The Jedi believe they've won, he murmurs, but they've only cleared the board. His smile returns, slow, deliberate, venomous. And now, it's my turn to play. The next time you see him, he's no longer just a chancellor. The Clone Wars have begun. The galaxy burns. You stand in the shadows of the war room as he watches holograms of star systems fall like dominoes. His generals bow, his advisors obey, and the Senate grants him emergency powers with thunderous applause. Every move has been orchestrated, every tragedy, every hero, every battle, all threads in his design. The Jedi think they fight to preserve peace, he says, his eyes fixed on the flickering image of a dying world. They fight for me. He turns his head slightly. Do you understand now? You nod slowly. You created both sides. His smile is thin, almost kind. Of course, conflict purges weakness. The galaxy must suffer before it can kneel. You begin to see the scope of it, the brilliance and the horror. He's not just waging a war, he's rewriting the very soul of the Republic. Heroes and villains, Republic and separatists, Jedi and Sith, all dancing to a symphony only he can hear. His manipulation is complete, his cruelty absolute. You watch as he speaks to the Jedi Council, his tone grave and compassionate. I will not let this Republic fall, he says, and every Jedi in the room believes him. Then you watch him in secret, in darkness, cloaked in shadow, kneeling before the image of his true master, Darth Plagueis. Everything is proceeding as planned, Palpatine says. But there's something in his tone, a subtle shift, a hidden smirk. Plagueis doesn't notice. He never will. One night, you're there when it happens, the final act of betrayal. The room is dark, the city beyond the window alive with the hum of speeders and distant thunder. Plagueis lies in his chair, breathing slow and shallow, his face pale, his power immense yet fragile in sleep. Palpatine stands beside him, the faint glow of Coruscant's skyline reflecting in his eyes. "You taught me well, my master," he whispers, "but the galaxy is mine now." He raises his hand. The force tightens. Plagueis stirs, eyes opening in sudden horror, but it's too late. The invisible grip closes around his throat. His body thrashes once, twice, and then stills. The silence that follows is almost holy. Palpatine exhales softly. "Even gods die," he murmurs. The words echo through the chamber like prophecy. When dawn comes, he stands before the Senate once again. The chamber glows golden, the same as before, the same applause, the same cheers. But this time, the air feels different. Heavier, colder. "The war is nearing its end," he says, his voice ringing with conviction. "Together we will bring peace and security to the galaxy." His smile widens. The senators rise to their feet in adoration, unaware that they're applauding their executioner. You stand among them, watching. You can feel it now, the galaxy itself tilting under the weight of his will. The Republic, the Jedi, the very Force. Everything bends toward him. He doesn't need to wield a blade. His weapon is the illusion of hope. His victory is trust. As the chamber erupts in celebration, he looks up, and for the briefest moment, his gaze meets yours. The smile remains, but this time you see it fully, not the politician's grin, not the benevolent leader's expression. The mask slips. Behind it, you see the true face of the Sith, cold, calculating, eternal. He knows you're watching. He always has. "Everything is proceeding as I have foreseen," he says softly, barely audible above the roar of applause. And as the golden light floods the Senate, you realize what you've just witnessed. Not the rise of a man, but the fall of an entire galaxy, wrapped in a smile. It begins with silence, the kind that creeps beneath the noise of war and waits, the kind that tastes like metal and ash, like the pause before thunder. You're standing on the balcony of the Jedi Temple, watching the city below flicker in endless light, the sprawl of Coruscant, the hum of civilization that never sleeps. But tonight, it feels different. The air is colder, heavier, carrying a strange scent, smoke, faint but rising. You can't place it yet. The sun is gone, swallowed by the crimson glow of incoming ships. Republic gunships. They move in formation, precision perfect, engines howling like beasts in a cage finally released. The clones inside are men you've fought beside, laughed beside, bled beside, brothers. And when the first transmission comes through, their voices are steady, mechanical, unshaken. "Execute Order 66. The words echo through the comms, clinical and calm, and the galaxy stops breathing. The first shot isn't loud, just a pop, a flash of blue light in the dark. You turn toward the sound expecting to see an intruder, and instead see a Jedi fall, eyes wide, confusion frozen on his face as the soldiers he trusted open fire. There's no hesitation, no remorse, just obedience. The next blast takes down his Padawan. The smell of ozone thickens, sharp and suffocating, mixing with the unmistakable stench of burning robes. The temple erupts in screams and blaster fire. You draw your saber. The familiar hum ignites the air, brilliant and blue. But the light feels small now, fragile against the storm. A clone sergeant steps into view, his visor reflecting your blade. You can't see his face, but you can hear it in his voice. "For the Republic," he says, and fires. You dive, roll, deflect. The air burns around you. The force floods your veins, but even it feels strained, confused, as if it too can't understand what's happening. You fight through all the corridors where you once trained, now turned into killing grounds. Halls of memory painted in fire. Statues of Jedi Masters crumble under blaster bolts. The archives, the sacred heart of the Order, are ablaze. Holocrons shatter. Knowledge centuries old burns to dust. You hear the cries of younglings down the hall and sprint toward them, heart hammering. A group of them huddle behind pillars, their small faces streaked with tears. "Stay behind me," you whisper. You raise your saber as more soldiers approach, their armor glowing orange in the flames. You cut through the first wave. 1, 2, 3. The force moving like instinct, like desperation. For a moment, you think you can hold them. Then the next volley comes. Too many. Too fast. You deflect 1, 2, but the third finds its mark. Pain sears through your side. You fall to your knees. The younglings scream. You force yourself up again, rage fueling you. But rage is not enough. And then, the presence. A shadow deeper than the night itself enters the chamber. The clones stop firing, stepping aside. The room quiets, save for the crackle of flames. You turn and see him. Black cloak, measured stride, face hidden by the hood's shadow. His saber ignites with a hiss, crimson light flooding the room. The children gasp. "Master Skywalker," one whispers. "What are we going to do?" The answer is silence, broken only by the hum of his blade. You can feel it, the storm within him. Grief twisted into fury, love turned to hate, faith warped into something monstrous. He raises his hand and the air tightens. You can't breathe. Your saber is ripped from your grasp, spinning away. You try to speak his name, to reach whatever part of him still remains, but the words never leave your throat. The last thing you see before the world explodes in red is his eyes, burning gold, unrecognizable, yet achingly familiar. Outside, the city burns. Across the galaxy, it's the same. On Kashyyyk, clone troopers turn on the Jedi leading their defense, blaster bolts tearing through trees as massive Wookiees roar in confusion. On Felucia, the vibrant jungle is drowned in fire as Aayla Secura falls under the rifles of her own men. On Mygeeto, Ki-Adi-Mundi looks back at his soldiers, those he led through every siege, every loss, and sees only rifles staring back. "Wait!" he shouts, but the order is already written in their minds. Blue fire cuts him down mid-charge. The snow drinks his blood. The Republic becomes a slaughterhouse. You drift between moments now, flashes of betrayal stitched together by grief. The temple collapses behind you as you stagger through the smoke, dragging yourself through corridors filled with bodies. Friends, mentors, the old and the young. The force is a scream inside your skull, a wound that won't stop bleeding. You reach the meditation hall and fall to your knees before the great window overlooking the city. Outside, Coruscant glows golden still, the illusion of peace shining over the reality of massacre. You can feel him somewhere out there, Palpatine, his satisfaction radiating like heat. The galaxy bows, not realizing it kneels to darkness. The next morning, the sky over Coruscant is a sickly orange. Smoke veils the sun. You wake to the sound of gunfire still echoing through the streets below. The clones are methodical, efficient, precise. Jedi who escaped the temple are hunted down in alleys, their sabers extinguished forever. The council is dead, Yoda gone, Kenobi missing. You can feel their absence, the void left behind where the light used to be. You wander through the ruins of the temple, stepping over debris and fallen sabers. The marble floor is cracked, scorched, stained with ash. You find the younglings' training room, silent now. A single train. Ing remote floats in the corner, still hovering aimlessly. It bumps against a fallen robe, then goes still. You sink to your knees. The smell of smoke fills your lungs. It's not just the temple that's burning. It's everything. The Republic, the Order, the dream. A sound breaks the silence. The crackle of a hollow transmission still active on the council dais. You limp toward it. The blue image flickers. Palpatine, addressing the galaxy. His tone is calm, resolute. "The remaining Jedi will be hunted down and defeated," he declares. "The attempt on my life has left me scarred, but my resolve has never been stronger." His face twists, half hidden in shadow. The Jedi rebellion has been foiled. The Republic will be reorganized into the First Galactic Empire for a safe and secure society. The Senate cheers in the background. Applause, roaring, blind. You stare at the hologram, unable to look away. The voice is smooth, persuasive, almost soothing. The voice of a man who has convinced the galaxy that genocide is salvation. You see it now. This was never about war. It was about trust. The Jedi's greatest strength turned against them. The Sith didn't need to destroy the Republic. They became it. You walk through the temple one last time as dawn bleeds over the skyline. The fires are dying now, leaving trails of smoke that rise like ghosts. You reach the main hall where the great statue of the first Jedi once stood, shattered in two. You touch the stone, rough and cold beneath your hand, and close your eyes. The Force feels distant, muted, almost afraid. You whisper into the emptiness, "We failed." The words fall flat. No one answers. The light is gone. But then, A whisper, faint, like an echo from somewhere impossibly far. It's not a voice, but a presence. Yoda's, maybe, or something older. The light never dies, it says. It only hides. You open your eyes. The sky is gray, heavy with the weight of a new empire. Down below, banners bearing Palpatine's crest unfurl across the capital. The age of the Jedi is over. The age of the Sith has begun. You stand at the threshold of the ruins, the wind carrying the scent of burnt stone and betrayal. You close your eyes and inhale deeply, memorizing it. The smell of endings. The city awakens beneath the shadow of its new emperor. The clones march in perfect unison through the streets, their armor gleaming white against the soot. Citizens watch, silent, uncertain, but too afraid to speak. Somewhere far above, on a balcony overlooking it all, Palpatine stands cloaked in darkness, his hood drawn low, his yellow eyes glowing faintly as he surveys his creation. His lips curl into that same soft, knowing smile. The galaxy tilts, and the last embers of the Republic fade to black. You turn away from the temple, its once brilliant spires now broken silhouettes against the dawn. The wind shifts, carrying ashes across the city, and for a moment, they glitter like stars. You reach down and pick up a single lightsaber, its hilt scorched, blade extinguished, and clip it to your belt. The Force is quiet now, but beneath that silence, something still stirs. The faintest heartbeat of defiance, the whisper of survival. You know this isn't the end, not truly. The dark has won the day, but light, even buried, remembers how to burn. You take one last look at the smoking skyline of Coruscant, then disappear into the labyrinth of the lower city, into exile, into myth. Behind you, the Empire rises, and above it all, the echo of blasters still rings through your memory, a symphony of betrayal. 5. Forever seared into the bones of the galaxy, and as you vanish into the dark, you understand the cruel truth that will haunt history forever. The Sith didn't destroy the Jedi destroyed themselves, the moment they trusted the wrong smile. The sound hits you first, slow, mechanical, deliberate, breathing, not the breath of a man, but of a machine that has learned to imitate life. The hiss and drag echo through the chamber like waves against metal, each exhale filled with menace, each inhale a reminder of pain that never ends. You can smell burnt iron, scorched oil, the sterile bite of antiseptic. The light in the room is dim, blue shadows cast by medical consoles and red sensors blinking in rhythm with the breathing. You're standing in the Emperor's private sanctum aboard the Death Star, but it feels more like a mausoleum than a throne room. And at its center, beneath the towering figure of Palpatine himself, kneels the machine, the monster, the shadow that used to be Anakin Skywalker, Darth Vader. He doesn't look up at first. The black armor absorbs the light, gleaming faintly where sparks from the nearby machinery reflect across its polished surface. The chest plate hums with a quiet pulse, a mechanical heartbeat. The cape drapes behind him like a shroud, heavy with the weight of history. Palpatine's voice breaks the silence, low and cold. "Rise, Lord Vader." The air vibrates when he speaks, the Force rippling like disturbed water. The machine moves. It's subtle, the hiss of hydraulics, the grind of metal against metal. And then the giant stands. You can feel it, the gravity of his presence, as if the room itself bends around him. His head turns toward you, and for a moment, the red eyes behind the black lenses meet yours. There's nothing human in them. No warmth, no soul, just reflection. Your own trembling form mirrored in the void. You remember the stories. The hero of the Republic, the Jedi Knight who defied the Council, who fought through fire and chaos for peace. You remember the promise of light he carried, the way his name inspired hope across the stars. But this thing before you is not that man. This is what's left when love burns out and leaves only ash. The Emperor circles him like a vulture admiring his own creation. "Do you feel it?" Palpatine whispers. "The pain, the anger, the power." Vader's mechanical hand flexes, the sound of servos whining beneath armor. "Yes," he answers, his voice distorted, hollow, deeper than sound itself. It's not speech, it's resonance. "I feel it." His tone is flat, emotionless, yet behind it lies something buried. Not obedience, not yet, but loss. Palpatine raises a hand, and lightning arcs from his fingers, snapping through the air. It dances over Vader's armor, crawling across the plates, seeping into the gaps. Smoke rises, the scent of ozone thickening, but Vader does not flinch. He stands still, motionless. When the lightning stops, the Emperor steps closer, eyes blazing with satisfaction. "Good," he hisses. "Pain will remind you of what you were. Fear will teach you what you must become." Vader's head tilts slightly, the faintest hint of defiance hidden in the gesture. "And what must I become?" he asks. Palpatine's lips twist into that cruel, knowing smile. "A legend," he says. "A monster." The next moment is seared into your mind. The birth of fear itself. Palpatine turns toward a nearby viewport, his voice echoing off the walls. "The galaxy must forget Skywalker," he says. "There was no Jedi, only Vader." He points toward the massive planet below. "Mustafar, the grave of Anakin Skywalker. You were born in fire," he whispers. "Now rule through it." You feel the force shift, the air thickening with darkness. It's not just a command, it's transformation. You watch as Vader slowly raises his hand, palm open, fingers trembling slightly as though learning to move for the first time. The shattered remains of a console lift from the ground, twisting mid-air. His fingers curl into a fist. The metal crumple, as like paper. The sound is deafening, the groan of crushed steel echoing like thunder. Palpatine laughs softly, pleased. "You see," he says, "you are not man, you are destiny." But you can feel it. Beneath the obedience, beneath the armor, something else stirs. Regret, ghosts. They linger in the faint movements, in the pause between breaths. Every inhale sounds like suffering, every exhale like surrender. You close your eyes for a moment and hear whispers in the Force, voices from another life. Padme, Obi-Wan, the Jedi he once called brothers. They fade like dying stars, leaving only the hollow hum of his respirator. He turns toward you again, and this time, it's not just the mask you see, it's the weight of everything behind it. The pain, the guilt, the endless prison of his own making. His armor isn't protection, it's punishment. The Emperor dismisses you with a wave of his hand, but you linger. You can't look away. Vader steps closer to the window, staring out at the black void of space. The stars reflect in his visor like distant memories. "They fear you already," Palpatine says. Across the outer rim, the name Vader is spoken only in whispers. "You are the blade that will carve the new empire." Vader's response is quiet, almost lost beneath the mechanical rhythm of his breathing. "And if they refuse to bow?" The Emperor's smile widens. "Then you will teach them the cost of disobedience." The months that follow become legend. You witness worlds burn. You see Jedi hunted like animals, dragged from hiding and cut down without mercy. Vader leads every assault, his presence a storm that devours light. You follow him through corridors lined with smoke and corpses, through temples desecrated and cities turned to ash. The sound of his breathing becomes the omen of death, a sound that echoes in every shadow, every whispered prayer. But even in victory, he moves like a man lost. You see him sometimes, standing alone amid ruins, his saber extinguished, staring at the bodies. You don't know if he's mourning them or himself. One night, aboard his Star Destroyer, you stand outside his meditation chamber. The door slides open, and you see him without the mask, just for a moment, his back turned. The pale skin of his scarred skull bathed in red light. Tubes connect his body to the life support systems around him. The sound of his breathing is gone, replaced by the quiet hum of machinery. For the first time you hear silence around him. Real silence. And it's almost peaceful. You realize then that the mask isn't just his prison, it's his penance. The door closes, and the breath returns. Mechanical, inescapable, eternal. When next you see him, he's standing before the Emperor again. This time, in the heart of Coruscant, as the Empire celebrates another conquest. "They worship you now," Palpatine says. "Even as they fear you." Vader doesn't reply. His gaze is fixed on the crowd below. Citizens cheering beneath Imperial banners, soldiers saluting, children holding miniature stormtrooper helmets. It's everything he once swore to protect, now enslaved in the name of order. His voice when it comes is low. "Is this what peace looks like?" Palpatine tilts his head, smiling. "Peace is the absence of resistance." Vader's fists tighten. "And freedom?" The Emperor's eyes flash yellow. "Freedom," he says, "is the lie that made you weak." Something shifts in that moment. imperceptible, but real. The first crack in the armor, hidden beneath layers of hate and obedience. You can feel it, faint, but alive. A flicker of the man who once believed in hope. He buries it, of course. He has to. He turns away, his cape sweeping like a shadow, swallowing the light. But as he walks, you hear something beneath the breathing. A tremor. Small, but human. Doubt. Years pass. The Empire grows fat on fear. The galaxy forgets the Jedi, forgets the Republic, forgets what light felt like. But Vader endures. His legend becomes myth. Children who cry are silenced with stories of him. Soldiers whisper his name before battles like a prayer for survival. The Dark Lord, they call him, the right hand of the Emperor. But you've seen behind the mask. You know what he really is. Not a god, not a demon, but a man who traded his soul for silence and found only screams. And yet, in the darkest corners of the galaxy, something stirs. Rebellion. Whispers of resistance. The Force moves again, faint but undeniable, like the slow inhale before a storm. You feel it. A shift, a disturbance. The light, once buried, begins to breathe again. And in that light's return, you wonder what will happen when it meets the darkness that was once Anakin Skywalker. You look at him one last time. The machine, the legend, the tragedy. He stands before the Emperor, unmoving, eternal, a monument to fear. But for a fleeting heartbeat, as the light flickers across the black glass of his mask, you swear you see something reflected there. Not you, not Palpatine, but the faint image of a young man, blue eyes bright, smiling under twin suns that will never rise again. The breath continues, slow, relentless, eternal, and you understand, this is not a man. This is a wound that never healed, a ghost that refuses to die, a monster that remembers what it was to be human. The air burns before he even moves. You can smell it, that sharp electric tang of ozone, the prelude to violence. The red light from his saber spills across the walls like liquid fire, turning the dust and debris into glowing embers. Twin blades spin in a perfect circle, each motion cutting the air with surgical precision, the hum of energy rising to a snarl. And then, silence, for one heartbeat, one breath, before the storm explodes. He lunges. You feel the shockwave before the impact, the force bending space around his fury. This is not elegance. This is not strategy. This is pure rage, sharpened by years of torment, forged into something feral and beautiful. Darth Maul. His tattoos blaze like war paint beneath the crimson glow, his eyes a molten yellow that burns with one truth, vengeance. He doesn't fight for power. He fights to destroy the memory of his own suffering. Every motion screams it. Every strike carries the weight of betrayal. You stagger back as his sabers clash against yours, sparks bursting between you like tiny suns. The sound fills the corridor, not a duel, but a storm. The smell of ozone mixes with sweat and blood. He moves like a predator unchained. No hesitation, no wasted motion. You can see it in his body, in the way his muscles coil and release, the rhythm of violence that's more instinct than technique. You parry once, twice, but each block drives you backward, closer to the edge. His grin splits the shadows, not joy, but something darker, triumph in pain. "You think you know anger," he snarls, voice raw and guttural, "but you've never lived it." He spins, the twin blades carving through the air like a red storm. You duck just in time as they slice a molten line across the wall behind you. The heat scorches your skin. He's not trying to win. He's trying to make you feel, to drag you into the same pit that birthed him. You've seen size, before. They hide behind philosophy, ambition, politics. Maul is none of those things. He is the raw, unfiltered essence of the dark side, not the whisper, but the scream. He doesn't manipulate the Force. He bleeds it. Every movement draws on pain. Every breath feeds on hate. You can feel it radiating from him, like standing too close to a collapsing star. The Force itself recoils, yet obeys him, bending under the weight of his fury. His strikes grow faster, heavier. You match them barely. The rhythm of his assault pushing you past fear into instinct. Each clash is a heartbeat, each dodge a gasp of survival. The sound of his breathing syncs with yours, not mechanical, like Vader's, but animal, labored, primal. There's rhythm in it, like the pounding of a war drum. And through it all, that sound, the twin sabers screaming in circles, relentless, perfect. The floor trembles as his blade sweeps low, forcing you to leap back. He follows, his body twisting midair, robes cutting arcs through the smoke. For a second he's weightless, almost graceful. Then he lands with a thunderous impact, the shockwave sending you sprawling. You taste blood. He stalks forward, slow now, deliberate. "They left me to die," he says, voice echoing through the ruined hall. "Forgot me, replaced me." His saber lowers slightly, the red light dancing across his face. You see it now, the scars, the madness behind the eyes. "But I survived," the last word spits like venom. "I endure." He ignites his second blade again with a snarl. "And that is why I will always win." You feel the force coiling around him like a living serpent feeding on his hate. The very air distorts. When he attacks again, it's not just speed, it's inevitability. You catch his blade inches from your neck, the pressure vibrating through your bones. He pushes harder, the heat searing your face. For a moment, you lock eyes. Behind the rage, behind the fury, you see something else. A glint of recognition, pain, loneliness, a lifetime of being used and discarded. The galaxy made him this way. Sidious made him this way. And now he's become the embodiment of every wound the dark side ever inflicted. You see it, and it terrifies you. Because for all his hatred, Maul is still human, still hurting. He roars and throws you aside with a blast of force energy so strong it cracks the wall behind you. You crash to the ground, gasping. The sound of his footsteps draws closer, heavy, sure, inevitable. You reach for your weapon, but his boot pins your hand. The hiss of his saber fills the air above you, bathing your face in red light. "You think I serve anyone now?" he growls. "The Sith, the Jedi, the Republic, they're all the same." He leans down, his voice almost a whisper. "I serve only pain." His saber swings down and stops inches from your throat. His head jerks suddenly, eyes narrowing. The sound of distant blaster fire echoes through the corridors. For a moment he's still, the predator scenting new prey. His lip curls. "They come for me," he mutters. "They always come." You seize the moment. The force surges, raw and desperate. You throw him back, enough to break free and leap to your feet. He lands gracefully, the twin blades already spinning again. The duel reignites, faster, fiercer. You're both running on instinct now, driven by exhaustion and will. Every motion is survival. Sparks fly like rain. The ground beneath you is scarred with molten lines, the air a bee. Lure of red and blue light. Then, a mistake. A half-second too slow. His saber grazes your arm, searing through flesh. The pain rips a scream from your throat. Maul's grin widens. "Yes," he hisses. "Now you understand." He presses the attack, feeding on your pain, drawing strength from it. The force burns around you, alive with hate. You parry, barely, the heat from his blade blinding you. The impact sends you crashing backward again, the edge of a shattered platform crumbling beneath your boots. You dangle for a moment over the abyss below, a sea of fire and machinery roaring in the darkness. Maul stands above you, breathing hard, his saber humming inches from your fingers. The red light cuts across his face, half shadow, half devil. "You are weak," he says. "Mercy makes you weak." You stare up at him, chest heaving. "And hate?" you ask. "What has it made you?" For the briefest heartbeat, the fury in his eyes falters. Then his snarl returns. "Alive!" he spits. He swings. You drop. The blade cuts empty air as you fall into the abyss, the roar of machinery swallowing the sound. The heat rises around you, a fiery halo. You catch a ledge, barely. Above, Maul paces along the platform edge, searching for you. The light of his saber painting circles on the metal. You can hear his voice echoing down into the chasm. "They took everything from me," he shouts. "My life, my purpose, my name." His anger shakes the air. "I am no one's apprentice, no one's pawn." He looks up at the ceiling, at the unseen galaxy beyond. "But they will remember me. They will." The roar in his voice is half battle cry, half prayer. You pull yourself up just enough to see him silhouetted against the firelight. His stance is rigid, trembling, caught between control and madness. You realize then that Maul's war isn't with you. It's with the galaxy itself. He doesn't fight to win. He fights because it's all he has left. You climb back onto the platform, slow and silent, the noise of the machines masking your movement. Maul turns, sensing you. His sabers ignite again, that unmistakable hum, sharp and final. "Still alive," he growls. "Good." You brace yourself. There's no strategy left, no logic, just instinct and will. The blades clash again, each impact lighting the chamber like lightning. You can feel the force tearing through you both, raw and unfiltered. The metal beneath your feet cracks, the air vibrates, and then the final strike. Your blade meets his at full strength, the explosion of energy throwing you both backward. For a moment, the world dissolves into light and sound. When it clears, you're on your knees, saber extinguished. Across from you, Maul stands barely holding himself upright, smoke rising from the scorched edge of his weapon. He laughs, low, bitter, tired. "You think this ends?" he says. "It never ends." He turns away, deactivating one blade. The Sith, the Jedi, the Force. He glances back at you, eyes burning through the dark. They're all cages. The only truth is pain. His second blade dies, plunging the room into shadow. The only light left is the glow of molten metal and the flicker of fire reflected in his eyes. "Remember that," he says quietly. "It's the only lesson that matters." Then he's gone, vanishing into the smoke, his silhouette swallowed by the darkness he worships. You stay there for a long time, the heat licking at your wounds, the air thick with the scent of burning metal and something else, something human. You can still hear him faintly, that ragged breath between rage and exhaustion. A monster, yes, but not hollow, not empty. Darth Maul is the dark side stripped bare, not philosophy, not empire, just survival. The galaxy may call him a Sith, a killer, a demon, but you know the truth. He's something far more terrifying. He's what happens when pain becomes purpose. You rise slowly, your body shaking, your saber heavy in your hand. The battle is over, but his words linger. They echo through the steel corridors and the hollow places inside you. The only truth is pain. And as the smoke clears, you wonder, was he wrong? Or was he the only one who ever truly understood? The air is thin, sharp and cold, the kind that cuts through your lungs and fills them with frost. You can smell burned ozone, the aftermath of power poorly contained. Around you, the ruins of a starship smolder beneath the bruised glow of a dying sun. Metal hisses where fire meets snow. And in the center of the chaos, framed by smoke and light, stands a figure draped in black. The hood is pulled low, his mask gleaming like polished obsidian. Every breath he takes echoes through the wreckage, mechanical, uneven, fractured. Kylo Ren. You can feel him before you hear him. His presence in the Force is chaotic. Not the cold discipline of Vader, nor the pure wrath of Maul, but something trembling, uncertain, like a storm trying to decide whether to destroy or weep. The wind howls around him, scattering ash across the ground, and still he stands motionless, the flicker of the flames reflecting in his visor like ghosts. You watch as he reaches up, fingers trembling, and unclips the saber from his belt. The blade ignites with a roar, unstable, crackling, spitting sparks like a caged beast. The crossguard flares to life, twin tongues of red fire, hissing in defiance. It's a weapon that mirrors its master, powerful, but broken. You can hear it in his breathing, the weight of expectation crushing every inhale. He's not here as conqueror, he's here as heir, a shadow of a legacy that will never stop haunting him. "Do you know what they called him?" he asks, his voice distorted by the modulator, metallic and uncertain. "They called him Savior, Hero, the Chosen One." He takes a step closer, the snow crunching beneath his boots. But he failed, just like the rest of them. You can feel his anger thrumming through the air, pulsing through the Force like a heartbeat. Yet beneath it lies something deeper, sorrow, the kind that festers, the kind that makes you destroy what you love, just so it can stop hurting you. "You think you understand the dark side," he says, "but you've only ever seen its surface." He gestures toward the ruins around you, the broken ship, the shattered armor, the corpses half buried in ash. "This is what the light leaves behind." His saber hums louder, erratic, furious. "This is what mercy costs." You hold your ground, feeling the storm of his emotions swirl around you. Rage, grief, confusion, all clashing like warring tides. His power is raw, immense, but undisciplined. He steps closer again, and for the briefest moment, the mask catches the light just enough for you to see your reflection distorted in it, stretched, fractured, unrecognizable. "They told me to let go," he whispers, "to forgive, to find peace." His head tilts slightly, the voice lowering into something softer, more human. But peace is a lie. The Jedi feared the dark because it made them feel. His words shake, the modulator flickering with emotion. I feel everything. He grips his saber tighter, the red light spilling across his armor. And it burns. The wind picks up, carrying snow through the firelight, each flake glowing for an instant before melting into nothing. You realize he's trembling, not from the cold, but from the storm inside him. You're afraid, you say quietly. The words hang in the air like frost. His head snaps towards you. Afraid? His voice breaks into a harsh laugh. I killed fear. I buried it. He stops. The sentence dies. You see his hand shake, fingers twitching as if reaching for something that isn't there. He lowers the saber slightly. He spoke to me once, he says, barely audible. Through the Force, a voice I thought I'd forgotten. His tone shifts, mimicking, mocking. The ghost. You are not him. The red light of his saber flickers, as though even the weapon doubts him. But I am, he snarls suddenly, voice rising, and with desperate conviction. I am what he should have been. He lunges, the blade cutting through the air in a violent arc. You barely block in time, the collision exploding in a burst of sparks that sting your skin. His strikes are wild, heavy, driven by emotion rather than form. Every swing screams frustration. He fights like a man clawing at his own reflection, trying to kill what he sees. The impact sends you stumbling backward, the snow beneath your boots hissing as molten shards rain down. His saber sputters again, unstable, angry, and for a moment you wonder if it might tear itself apart from the force of his rage. You parry, deflect, counter, but each clash drives you deeper into the ruins, surrounded by the wreckage of his fury. The fight feels endless, circular, like a storm that refuses to break. His movements grow faster, his breathing harsher, until suddenly he stops. The saber drops slightly. The wind howls louder now, filling the space where words have failed him. He stands there, chest heaving beneath the armor, and you see it, the fracture behind the fury, the boy inside the monster. The one who still hears his mother's voice when the mask is off. The one who still dreams of a father's forgiveness that will never come. He takes a step back, lowering his saber. I thought power would make it stop, he says, voice barely a whisper. The guilt, the noise. His eyes, though hidden, feel fixed on something far away, something unreachable, but it never ends. You can feel it in him now, that pull toward the light he's tried so hard to drown. It's not weakness. It's the last piece of himself still alive. He haunts me, Kylo says, looking down at his saber as though it might answer him. Every time I close my eyes, the man they told me to idolize, the hero, the Jedi, his voice cracks. Skywalker. He lifts his head again, and even behind the mask you can feel the weight of that name. They made me his shad. Ow! But I am not him. Lightning flashes overhead, thunder rolling across the valley of ruins. For a moment, the mask looks like a skull, hollow, dead. He reignites his saber, but this time slower, almost reluctantly. The dark side promised freedom, he says, but it's just another chain. The words surprise you, not what he says, but how he says them, quietly, like a confession. You take a step forward, lowering your weapon. You can still choose, you say. His head tilts again, the faint hiss of his breath audible through the mask. Choice is weakness, he says. That's what he taught me. He looks down, almost whispering now. That's what Snoke taught me. The name falls heavy, like a wound reopening. The snow beneath him turns to slush from the heat of his saber. They all wanted something from me. Skywalker wanted redemption. Snoke wanted power, but no one ever wanted me. You see his hand tremble again. He grips his saber tighter, not to strike, but to hold on. I destroyed him, he says suddenly, eyes flashing behind the mask. I destroyed Snoke. I thought it would make me free, but it didn't. It just made me empty. The saber flickers again, the unstable core screaming like a wounded animal. Do you know what it's like? He asks, voice breaking through the static. To kill your master and still hear his voice? He presses a gloved hand against his helmet, as if trying to silence something inside. I can still feel him, in the shadows, in my blood. The dark side doesn't let go. It feeds. The storm rages around you now, snow swirling like ash. He falls to his knees, his saber dimming to a dull red glow. I tried to be him, he says, his voice barely audible through the wind. Vader. The name trembles in the air like a curse. I thought if I became what he was, I could finish what he started, but I see it now. Even he was a prisoner. Even he was afraid. He looks up at you, and though you can't see his face, You can feel his eyes, burning, desperate, human. "Tell me," he says, "what am I supposed to be?" You don't answer, because you know the truth. He's not a monster, not a savior, just a boy caught between light and shadow, trying to find himself in the wreckage of legends. The wind slows. The silence returns. He deactivates his saber, the last flicker of red fading into darkness. You can hear his breathing, slower now, steadier. "The galaxy doesn't need another Skywalker," he says quietly, "or another Sith." He stands, the snow crunching beneath his boots. "It needs something else." His voice steadies, conviction rising from exhaustion. Something new. He turns toward the horizon where the storm clouds break just enough for a single beam of light to pierce through. For a heartbeat, the white of the snow reflects in his visor, and it almost looks like hope. "Maybe that's what I am," he says. "The shadow's shadow, not light, not dark, just the echo." You watch as he walks away, the sound of his boots fading into the distance, each step carrying the weight of generations. The mask catches the last flicker of sunlight before he disappears into the storm. The sound of his breathing fades. The silence stretches. And for the first time, you understand. Kylo Ren isn't the villain of this story. He's its wound, the scar the Force left on itself, the consequence of too much faith, too much fear, too much legacy. The snow keeps falling, gentle now, covering the battlefield in white. The fire dies. The ashes cool. The past, for a moment, is quiet, but you can feel it. Beneath the calm, beneath the snow, something still trembles. The dark and the ligs, colliding endlessly, waiting for the next name to rise and fall. And somewhere, beneath it all, a voice whispers, his voice, soft and distant, carried by the wind. "I know what I have to do."